Today is January the 16th. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors of the Port of the Islands Community Improvement District. And as is your custom, we'll begin today with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Morning, everyone. As part of the roll call and approval of the agenda, today's meeting was properly noticed, and a copy of the affidavit is on file as part of the record of our proceeding here today, and also at the district office at 5672 Strand Court in Naples. We have 4 members present today, and I believe our chairman is participating by Zoom. Steve, are you there?
I am.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Item 2 is the roll call and approval of the agenda. I don't have any additions today to the agenda, but your motion to approve the agenda today should include allowing the chairman to participate via Zoom, citing extenuating and special circumstances.
Neil, can
Yes.
you ask how many HOA board members are there or representing their boards, so we have an idea?
Yeah, just for purposes of the record, Mr. Lee, can you tell us the neighborhood that you're here on behalf of?
Along with President Truckee Villages in Stone Maris.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Sunrise Bay.
And then your name?
Deborah Jones.
All right, Deborah, good morning. Any other HOA or condominium presidents here this morning? Apparently 2, Mr. Chairman.
Out of a dozen, we've got 2 HOAs being represented.
Well,
Okay.
cut us a little slack. It's cold down here. Truckees got on shorts, but I think some of them have stayed home.
Yeah.
This is Chip Condon from 2100 building. I'm on Zoom.
Okay. Good morning.
Thanks.
Any others? Any motion to approve the agenda again today and recognizing the chairman via Zoom?
I make the motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 3 today are public comments for matters not on the agenda. I don't see any who have registered in advance. Any public comments? If you will, come to the front. And again, all of our meetings are transcribed, and so if you don't mind giving us your name and your neighborhood.
Yes, my name is Rose Jarris. I am from Orchard Cove. I'm going to give you a letter that is circulating around the port that I initiated regarding some issues that I see with this board. Number 1, you should not increase water rates without having a spend plan. I think it's fiscally irresponsible to be going forward with rate increases without having an infrastructure plan and where that money's going to go. That's very disheartening. In addition, you're talking about things such as gates. If you go down to Reflections Lake or Gated Community, they are rated a number 4 for the worst for theft, theft, and robbery, just like any other city. So you need to do your homework on things like that, but you need to pay attention to the infrastructure before you start spending money on clubhouses and on gates. So this letter is getting signatures all around the communities. It is not finalized. I have some things I need to do to make it final, but I have quite a few signatures already and a lot of people asking for the signatures.
If I could, the utility rate structure was all based off of a civil engineer's capital improvement plan.
That plan is pretty outdated on your website.
It has been updated and will be updated again to include the new utility crossings on the US 41 bridge that was at last month's meeting. So the utility and the most recent investment for things like the new disc filters and several $100,000 worth of work are going to be on that plan. And so the utility...
They should have been on the plan before the rate went in. Sorry.
Well, if they don't... The utility... Well, I'm not going to argue with you today, but it was workshop and had a total of 4 public meetings and presentations
I was
in that
listening to
regard.
all those ones.
If I could ask one quick question, is this a draft or this was?
This is
an email
a
that was
draft
sent?
because it has to be finalized.
Okay, so this has not been sent yet.
It has not been sent yet.
Thank you.
Any other public comments for items that are not on the published agenda? Yes, sir.
I'm Mike Thompson. I'm down in Newport K. I'm the one that started the conversations on the next door site here several weeks ago. And I guess I pay my bills and whether they go up or not, but wondering why this went up. It's said in the bills and stuff that look on the website and you find out why, and it did not say that. All it did was say we changed it, and that's it. So I guess I want to know why the rate increased.
Well, again, there were a series of 4 public meetings in the past year. The board hired Florida's most recognized utility rate consultant to make the presentations and prepare the analysis. It was driven by the fact that historically here, the model for the utility system was a welfare or a subsidy model, and they subsidized the utility with non-ad valorem assessments off the tax bill. So if you look at your tax bill this year is down almost $1,200.
Mine was down $800.
Well, other taxing entities have increased their bills, and you are now also part of the mosquito control district. But I'm telling you that the expense on your tax bill for Port of the Islands decreased almost $1,200 this year over the prior year. In return for that, the board has adopted a new base rate that is going to be part of the business model and the consumption model that the vast majority of utilities are using. So that's the 1-minute response to your question. If you check your tax bill, your taxes for Port of the Islands are down almost $1,200.
Well, the non-ad valorem, I did the math. The non-ad valorem used to be $1,899.63. It's now, your non-ad valorem now is $721.26. That's a savings on your non-ad valorem of $1,178.37. The meter rate, which is now in your bill, in your water bill, is $15.42. That's a difference of $363.63 or $30.30 a month. So you went from non-ad valorem of $18.99 to $7.21. So that's, you're not looking at the non-ad valorem when you look at your taxes then. You're looking at your overall taxes. So we took the non-ad valorem and you're paying it on your water meter charge.
My fire alone went up $400. My fire protection went up 400 by itself. Went up $400.
And
I didn't pick it apart.
Yeah, just looking at non-ad valorem, you'll see that that went down.
So, but the people that haven't been here for the last 20 years, what's been going on for a long time is a lot of the residents have discussed the county taking over our water treatment, taking over everything here. Everybody was always talking about that. So what we put in place, what we tried to put in place was the same as the rest of the county. Okay? The billing structure for water rates. In case you guys aren't aware of that, that was to make it so that if you ever decide that you want the county to take us over, it's in place and ready to go. Otherwise, we can't do it the way it was set up before. Okay, and I brought in a water bill from Lely, an average water bill. An average water bill in Lely is $300 a month. Okay, we're by monthly. All right, so take that with a grain of salt. You know, the rates are not much different than they are in the rest of the county.
Also, for those people who don't understand non-ad valorem tax, it's not deductible. Never has been, never will be. So if you've been deducting it on your taxes, I suggest you find a better tax person because non-ad valorem is not tax deductible. So I have one other thing to say. People who go on next door criticizing the board, get your facts first. Dan Truckee has been working endlessly on FEMA, so the person who posted that we don't have any FEMA needs to come to a meeting and get educated. It's very disheartening watching people post on Nextdoor when they don't know what they're talking about. And we do look at it, we're not allowed to post on it, and I wouldn't join that conversation anyway. And I appreciate the people who do go on that and try and educate the people who don't know. Thank you, all of you. But if you have a question, I'm around. Most of the board people are always around. Ask the question to the board. Don't go on Nextdoor.
Or email
Show
or
your
contact
ignorance.
me, including my personal cell phone number that is available. You know, we had a big scare here last year. People were on Nextdoor claiming that the water had lead and arsenic in it. And that got out of hand because that was factually incorrect and done intentionally to alarm the community here. When, to Ms. Hanson's point, we are readily available either by email or by phone to answer. And I was on the phone yesterday with a guy confused about his utility bill, and when I explained to him that his tax bill had decreased to $1,200, he's like, "Oh, but then I don't have any other questions." And we're more than accessible, I hope.
And I'm happy to spend whatever time it needs to answer the questions. Like I said, but it's really disheartening to see people post things when they don't know what they're talking about. And try to incite other people.
Well, I have one other topic. I was at one of these CID meetings several years ago and basically told my face I don't have the right to vote anyway because I'm not a resident. I'm from North Dakota and would come down here for 6 months out of the year, but I've never changed my residency. And, well, I think you could make people a little more welcome that they got a voice anyway, even if they can't vote.
Well, I don't think anybody on this board feels that way, but
Thank you again.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Morning.
Good morning, all. Catherine Kellmeyer, Newport Drive, Sunset K Lakes. Annalise, at the last meeting, you said your taxes went up, and I said I hadn't checked that out.
No, I didn't say that.
So, we won't argue that. I went back and checked yours, and your taxes are the same as Steve McNamee's. Your single-family homes, the difference between 24 and 25 taxes was a difference of $81.59 when you factor in the new structure with the $128.63, I believe, or $36.38. Your taxes for single-family homes only went up $81.59. Condos, on the other hand, because they were giving not a full ERC credit of 1.0, which the home was, they were only being charged 0.8. Their taxes went up $362.19. That is totally unfair to condo owners. It is too big of an increase, and it needs to stop just comparing condos to single-family homes. Thank you.
Are you talking about the water bill? Non-ad valorem or regular taxes?
The water bill.
The water bill. The water bill before was not fair to everyone.
Final
I
public
own a water
comments.
company. I understand the whole system.
Thank you for those.
You're welcome.
Item 4 today are the approval of the minutes of your last regular meeting that occurred in December, and they're behind the first tab there. Ms. Hanson, did you have any suggested edits, or have you had a chance to look at them early?
I don't have any.
No changes?
No.
Motion to accept?
Make the motion, we accept the minutes.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 5 today is courtesy to our contractors, our monthly utility report. Good morning, Matt.
Morning, board. All right. Monthly client report for the Island Utilities. Operations at the facilities throughout the month were in accordance with contract and regulatory requirements. All wastewater plant requirements were met and all water distribution requirements were met. Reuse pump system is functioning properly. The canal pump station was on 2 pumps. It's currently now down to 1 pump. one of them tripped out and won't reset since the last meeting. We received and treated 3.06 million gallons of wastewater in December. We produced and distributed 2.93 million gallons of drinking water, and we distributed 9.57 million gallons of reused water. We inspected all pump stations weekly, performed odor control checks. Let me back up. We disposed of 20,000 gallons of sludge. We fixed one line break and used 665 gallons of chlorine. The 75 reuse motor is still out for repair. The pump in was supposed to arrive this week, so we're hoping to have it back next week. We did install a temporary diesel backup pump because that pump on the canal went down. So we do have sufficient pumping capacity in the event of an emergency.
Is that pumping out of the canal or?
No,
pumping out?
It's in place of the 75 horse at the plant. Yep. And the Newport Master Lift Station rehab is underway. Other than that, that's all I have for you.
Can you give them an update or on the right-of-way permit for the upcoming project to replace the US 41 bridge crossing?
I don't have an update on that. I haven't been part of that permitting process.
Would you at least touch base with Jared Brown, the engineer? I think it's his opinion that, and he may have had a conversation with Mitch about that. We're going to need a permit to do that work, even though it's just replacement work. And I just want to make sure we stay on top of that.
I'm sure from FDOT we need something to be out there. So.
Matt, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Matt, just for the people that are online and might be interested in this, we keep being told that out into the public through next door and just gossip that somehow we haven't been keeping up with the maintenance and the infrastructure of our water treatment plant. Can you allude to that at all?
Your water treatment plant and wastewater treatment plant have received a lot of maintenance and upgrades over the past, well, since I've been here anyways. And I haven't ever been told no on anything that needed done with, so you have a great plant, you produce great water, and your wastewater plant is running at about half its capacity, so you're in a decent situation utility-wise.
In the less than 2 years that we've been here, and actually a little over 2 years, we have probably spent $500,000 in particular on those new filters and the pump station rehabs and upcoming work to replace the raw water main. And now the US 41 bridge crossing, we're probably, over the course of 2 years, going to spend $1 million on capital replacement and upgrades to the existing plant.
I think there might even be ground storage.
I'm frustrated with the fact that we keep hearing this same song over and over, that we shouldn't be spending money on anything other than the water treatment plant because it's in such bad shape. And it's the same people who are that are putting this out into the public that don't come to these meetings. They don't watch it on Zoom, and they just are putting this nonsense out into the public. Thank you, Matt. You're doing a stellar job.
Thank you.
Great job.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. Good work.
Thank you.
That takes us down to the manager's report.
Hang on just a second, Neil. I find it disheartening that you think your water plant's not being kept up. We've done a lot of work there. We've had grants for the water plant. We put in a whole new computer control system. That was almost $100,000 under grant. Put a new diesel generator out the well field. That was under grant. The old generator quit. We had the plant used to run on one side. When we were on the board, elected on the board, the plant was running on one side of the sewer plant. Matt can probably tell you a little bit more about that. The plant was running on one side of the plant. It's got duplicate sides.
Correct.
So a couple of years ago, when we came on the board, that plant had been running on one half of its capacity for a long time, and that was all it could do. Now we have both sides running, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And they're running at optimal capacity. It was on one side, and the one side that was running was at a lower end of its capacity. So we cleaned all the membranes, overhauled everything, new SCADA, so we can control everything with tighter parameters. And
Tell them what that SCADA does for your phone, for controlling the plant.
yeah, I mean, I can run the whole plant from my house basically if I have to. So it's nice then. And we just installed Starlink, so we were having a lot of problems with CenturyLink. So now we're able to, in an emergency, contact the plant regardless of what's happening.
And that SCADA system also tells you about leaks and anomalies in the system.
Oh yeah, we have parameters we set that if we reach over a certain GPM on the distribution system, I get an alarm that there's high flows, which means there's probably a main break somewhere, so that we can lower pump speeds and maintain pressure in the system, but not lose water so fast. I mean, it's night and day difference from what you had before.
Can you have a walkthrough for people?
Yeah.
If we want to do that,
Absolutely.
we've done that in the past. We had
Yeah.
we went through the same thing years ago, and we just had hot dogs and crap, whatever we had there.
We'd be happy to have a
Open it up.
walkthrough.
Let them see it.
Nobody knows what we do, so we're happy to show it off anytime anybody wants to see it.
Let them see how
Yeah.
dilapidated it is. Yeah. Walk them through it, and maybe they'll knock it off.
So when we talked to Matt out at the water plant, we asked him a couple of years ago, what's the weakest part of the system? Excuse me, what could shut us down for the longest time or create the most problems? And we decided it was a sand filter that could shut us down for probably a week if that went down during a hurricane or anything else because of the way it has to be cleaned and maintained, right? So we went ahead and ordered a disc filter for the plant. The disc filter can be washed and put right back in service in hours, right?
Yeah.
So what does a disc filter do to us as far as having the plant up and running?
Well, the disc filter can handle a lot more flow than the sand filter. So in the event that you have flooding and we receive, if lift station lids go underwater and, surface water is rolling into our system, the sand filter would get overwhelmed and overflow at the plant. The disc filter will handle whatever we throw at it. And also, like worst case scenario, if we lost power and the generator didn't work and all these things, if they dominoed into a bad situation, the actual sand filter doesn't require any power, so it's running as a backup to the new disc filter. So now you have redundancy where you didn't have redundancy before.
Right. So what we've done is we've made it much more redundant for hurricane situations where we might flood, stuff that would shut the plant down. Those are a lot of the different things we looked at. We also went to the LMS meetings. We put one of our people on the board for the MLS, which we've never had before. What that does for us is it gets us in a grant pool, a local grant pool that FEMA pays, gives the state some monies, the states give it to the county, and then you have to get in line and try to score high on their matrix to be able to get some money out of the county. We scored the highest. We scored very high on water storage tank. All right, that was one of our weaknesses, that in a storm, if something actually shut down, how much storage do we have to supply you residents with water? We've been through that. We actually won that, and now it's sitting on FEMA's desk. It went through the state, went through the DEP, FDM, and now it's sitting in FEMA waiting to get funded so we can put a new storage tank in, a 250,000 gallon storage tank. All right, there's a lot of stuff that's been done on the water plant that wasn't done before. The water plant hasn't run on both sides since shortly after it was built. It does now. So don't come to these meetings or don't get on next door and tell us that we've done nothing with the water plant, because that's kind of a slap in the face that's not deserved. We've done more with the water plant than half your other boards have done. So keep that in mind.
Matt, thanks again. We are in some early discussion stages with them about evaluating a surge tank for your wastewater that would drastically increase the daily operating capacity, where we have the ability to in the morning when everybody gets up and toilets are flushing and showers and dishwashers, we're contemplating a surge tank to where we can hold that sewage in an area before it hits the plant in order to give the plant more efficient time to process it over the course of the next 24 hours. And so you've got a great contractor and a great civil engineer, and to the previous comment, you probably spent $500,000 on upgrades and capital improvements in just the past year.
And just for the record, since we're on this topic, I do want to confirm across multiple boards of your nature, FEMA grants are some of the slowest possible money sources. They are good money sources. The money does show up, but you are not alone in that space. There are fire districts that have been waiting 10 years for funding. There are cities that are waiting 9 years for funding on certain projects. And so it's always very frustrating trying to catch the money, but it almost always does come through at the end of the day. And so it always makes sense to pursue the money. But along those lines, and I was going to put this in the attorney comment, but right now we are initiating talks with Florida Rural Water so we can try to get into the SRF funding pool, because that is it's a quicker funding source. But all of these different approaches are the right way to make sure that the district is leveraging the state's tax as opposed to just the funds generated from the district to improve the district's performance, because at the end of the day, the district sits in an environmentally sensitive area and has the ability to get state funding and federal funding and should always be pursued, because otherwise the residents have to pay for everything. And so it makes a lot of sense to me in watching other jurisdictions handle these exact same problems. They always go to the federal and state governments when they can, because it's not coming directly off the backs of the residents.
Right. Rose is over there, she has her hand up.
I did not mean to say that you guys have not done a great job with the infrastructure, so I just want to clarify that. You increased every condo owner in here $356 additional. Where is that money going, and what do you do with it? That's what's not clear to me at least.
We were under budget billing before. We needed to have an increase. So that $1 a day that you're talking about, we needed to do that to try to bring us up to non-deficit spending. And that was on the advice of a consulting firm. We didn't just one day nilly-dilly decide that let's raise everybody's assessments up or their utilities up. We were deficit spending. And we don't want to be like the federal government and just deficit spend and wait for the next owner of your house or your condo to make up the difference. We're trying to make this right now, and we're trying to do it before you guys drive us out of here.
Good point. Matt, thanks again.
Hang on just a second before Matt leaves. I'd like to go into something else.
Can I ask a question, please?
Stand by. Go ahead, Matt.
Okay. All right. There's other issues that are out there that you don't even know about. We have saltwater intrusion going over the weir. All right, so since the Everglades Restoration Project has closed all the canals and we don't get the flow coming down anymore, it's created problems and it could be big expenses for us also. All right, so that water not coming down allows the salt water to backflow over the weir and intrude into the freshwater system above the weir. That creates a big problem for us that we're trying to get some attention to right now. All right, our pump stations that Matt talked about, the pumping down on the canal is our backup pumps. It supplies our fire suppression systems, and it actually runs through some of the buildings that are sprinklered and that kind of thing. That is fresh water that we take off the canal in emergency situations. We have to have it to meet our requirements for fire flow and things like that. All right, with that system now getting salt water, and if that's a freshwater system that's getting salt water in, how do you think that's going to work? All right, that's going to take out our pump stations, that's going to take out the system. It's not designed for salt water. We have to either put a saltwater desalination plant in that'll take care of that types of flow, which is a pretty big system, or we have to expand our well field, add more wells and bring in more piping. And I have feelers out right now with DEP and things like that to see if they'd agree, they have to permit us to expand our well field to be able to take more fresh water and maybe let that system go obsolete, or build a saltwater desalination system there and the piping and everything that can take that. Those are all things that are right now on paper we're talking about, but those are expenses that are looking us right in the face. Sprinkler systems in a building, you run salt water through those right now, and you're gonna have major problems. All right, same with our system, with our plants, it's not designed for salt water. So there's another thing that's in the making that you don't even know about.
Have you considered raising the weir?
South Florida Water Management, the Corps engineers, we've been in very top-end meetings with them. They don't want to recognize Port Island as having any dangers or changes or anything, right? The system, the stuff that our well pipe, we're waiting on grants for the well pipe, right? $1.1 million to put a new pipe in from the wells in. We have to raise all the wells because the last time we had Ian, we had 2 feet of water on the road prior to the hurricane because of the Everglades Restoration Project. Okay, there's things that you wouldn't know about it unless you're involved in it, all right? But if you want to have a meeting someday and sit down and talk about what the Restoration Project is doing to Port of the Islands, the tomato farm's got $26 million to protect them from the Restoration Project. The Indians right now down the road, the Mikazuki Indians, have it held up right now because they don't like the flood water coming onto their land. We've been in high-level meetings with the Corps engineers. They had attorneys there. They had, gosh, you were there, Zach. Who was all in that meeting?
We were there, executive director of the Big Cypress Basin Board, county commissioners.
The important signal was they had high-level Corps personnel, which do not show up to any meetings.
Well, we had the big folks at that meeting. They listened to it, wrote an email back 2 weeks later and said they're not going to do anything for Port of the Islands. Okay, in all their paperwork since 2000, it says in there that every document they have, it says they have to protect us. All right, the town hall meetings they had before they started closing the canals down came to the meetings right at Orchid Cove and said they're going to protect us. They're not. All right, there's a lot of stuff out there that takes a lot of money, and just understand, I don't want to see you guys pay any more than you have to pay for your water bills, okay? I'm right there too. I don't want to pay any more for my water bills than we need to, but we're looking at a lot of expenses, we really are. And we can do like they did back, I came here in 12, I think it was 2010 probably, where they went and spent money, and it was like $10 million or something they spent, and we paid for it for the next 10, 15 years, whatever, right? We're not looking to do that. I think that right now we're sitting pretty good. We have millions of dollars in savings right now. We were able to save some money. But if we have to pay for all this stuff or go ahead and start replacing the well pipe and all these things, it's $1 million every time you turn around. It's $1 million to fix the pipe on the pipes on the bridge. It's $1 million to put the piping in out to the well fields. If we have to expand the well fields, that's more millions. I mean, you know, you talk about a Harley, and they say every time you fix your Harley it's $100. Well, every time you work on something at the water plant, it's $500,000 or $1 million. So, yeah, we have some money there. And yes, it's costing everybody a little bit. When we put that in, there were a lot of moving parts to changing the way we build. A lot of them. You don't even think about all the different parts that have to come out when you do the water bills. We said we'd put it in motion. We get the water bills going, and we take a look at it after we got a couple bills and see what we have to do to adjust it to get it back kind of to where it was before. We've been talking about different ways that we might have to adjust the bill after we see another water bill. All right, that's out there. We're not trying to steal your money. We're not trying to make it cost you more money. All right, we're here to make the water plant work. I think we've been very frugal with the money that we've had. We were $500,000 under budget last year. All right? Before we came on the board, they were running over budget every year. That's why they had to borrow another $1 million right before we were elected. They borrowed $1 million, and the first thing we did is pay that $1 million loan back. We're trying to do the best we can with your money. really are.
And importantly, the board has already set a mid-year review of the new rate structure, and we will be at that point 3 bills into the new, and so the April meeting has already been put aside to have a special workshop to review the mid-year utility rate structure prior to next year's budget.
And
One
let
other
me say
thing.
one more thing.
One other thing. I know Catherine Kellmeyer loves to just drag Steve McNamee's name through this. So go back and look at Steve McNamee's taxes that he paid the first year that he was here. If I'm not mistaken, it was around $2,100 that first year. We're not close to that yet. Do you think our expenses have gone down in all those years? So this is the problem. People don't remember what things were before we got on this board, how much assessments were back then. I think that first year I was at $2,100. We're not anywhere as close to that now. Is it because our expenses have gone down? No, it's because we're figuring out where we can generate money that was never being brought in before. All the overlooked assessments that weren't brought in, the grants that we could find, all those things. That's why your bill isn't way higher than it is right now. Thank you.
Good point. Any other questions for Matt?
Wait, you had something else to say?
I have one more thing I want to say.
Can I ask
So
a
the balancing act isn't an easy job. We have the boats, and we have livable boats, and we have non-livable boats, right? It's a marina. We have condos. We have small condos. We have big condos. We have houses. And you have to balance your assessment between all those different people, and each one of them thinks that they should pay a little more, a little less, or whatever because of where they live and that kind of thing. It's not easy. If we came to you and said, okay, all your neighbors, you're gonna have to charge some of them more, some of them less, some of them, do the boats get less? How much less do the boats get, right? How much less do a small condo get? Should the houses pay more because they're a house? That's not an easy task, because you have to justify everything you do with that, right? So keep in mind that there's a lot more to this than just an overview when you take a look at it and say, oh, well, my bill went up. It's way deeper than that. There's way more work that goes into it. There's figuring out how much each different type of unit should pay and that kind of thing. So there's a lot to this thing. There's a lot of pieces. And like we said, we're going to take another look at it in another billing period here. We'll take a look at it because we changed a lot of things in one big flop when we changed the billing. And we'll see what we have to do to balance it out a little more to try to make everyone happy. But it's not as easy as you think. The gentleman in the back would like to say something.
Hi, Dan Williamson, Marina Condo Association. I want to thank you. I am much more informed than I was a half hour ago.
Can't hear him. Can't hear him.
That's right. Yeah, we get this directional microphone.
I feel much more informed about the whole water system and the billing with that than I did a half hour ago. Dan, you're mentioning, some really concerning things with the salt water, especially. It hits me and goes, wow, what do you do with that? I wonder, and I would challenge the board. I think most of us want our infrastructure, the things that keep us moving day to day, to be addressed as you have them. I think I'll speak for me, but I don't know what you folks think. When there's talk of a clubhouse and gated community and other things that cost a significant amount of money, I think we go, wow, if we have some of these other major expenses that keep us going day to day, necessities, fresh water, it makes me nervous to think, well, we're going to spend money on a clubhouse, and what's the purpose, and why would we even, that, I think that makes me go, okay, where are you thinking there?
Let me say something about the clubhouse. what I think a lot of people are not seeing in a clubhouse is it's more than a clubhouse. And that hasn't gone anywhere. We've listened to the people. We've kind of went back to start thinking about that more and more, right?
Yeah.
But a clubhouse is, you know, that's the quilting or the fishing or whatever you do in a clubhouse, okay? But there's more to it, all right? A clubhouse becomes a hurricane shelter, all right? Because if we talked about, hang on, just hang on. If it meets the qualifications for a hurricane shelter, there's grants to build it, all right? Because the federal government recognizes that communities need things like hurricane shelters, all right? There's 2 different grant pools. We've looked into it. If it meets those qualifications, it can duplicate as a hurricane shelter or a clubhouse or whatever, all right?
Will those grants, supply maintenance in the future to keep it up in 20 years from now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be an asset, then it would be the responsibility of the community if and whenever it was built.
Okay. Okay.
Can I say something about that? Can I say something about that? Okay,
Yeah.
we've got people in the community who come to us and they say, we would like you to look into building a clubhouse. We would like you to look into putting up security gates. We would like you to look into putting up pickleball courts. We would like you to look at all these things. Are we as a board supposed to tell these people, no, we won't bring it up because not everybody in the community will see it as an advantage to them personally? Or should we bring it up before the community, discuss it, and then make a decision? Because basically what you're telling us is we shouldn't even be allowed to talk about these things when our constituents are asking us to do it.
Yeah,
I don't think, did anybody hear me say that?
No.
I didn't say that. Dan, what I heard you just say is that's been considered. It's like he said, you know, thrown on the table, what about this? And it sounds like with the most of the community has said, no, that's not something, not a place we want to go. And hurricane shelter, I know for me, you know, we're vulnerable. You take off when and we're getting plenty of notice and all of that. Now, there's other ways to mitigate hurricanes coming. We've done it. And so, I don't think I have anything more to say.
Okay, so you did.
So, is it possible for the people?
Sir, again, I need you to come to the front, and again, only because these are transcribed, I'll need your name and your name.
Yeah, okay. My name is Rick Mishler. I live at Stella Maris South currently, and I've been in the area here for 25 years, Snowbird, and a lot of things to be discussed. One gentleman from North Dakota said that he doesn't have a voice, he can't vote. That's state law. That has nothing to do with the CID board. I wish the same thing, that I could vote for members of the CID board. The gentleman that just spoke, we have 7 or 8 different homeowners associations here. 2 are represented today, maybe 3, one by Zoom or 3. Okay, people have different wants and needs, but there seems to be a vocal minority that tries to override and run the board all the time. I'm probably wanting a clubhouse, and when I mean a clubhouse, I mean a functioning place where there's a restaurant and a bar, not something that's open one day and closed the next day. Similar to a golf course. The first thing in any new development is built is usually a clubhouse. Nobody even wants to look at the place other than that. I know there's a lot of people down here. There's people down here that have no money. There's people down here that have a lot of money, and $5 to some is nothing compared to some other people. So I respect that, but I would like to have a clubhouse where people can sit and revisit about what's going on, which is better for the community. And if people don't want it, that's fine, but I probably would take responsibility for kind of being an instigator for the clubhouse.
think we may have had one question by Zoom. Sir, I didn't get your name.
My name is Pete Castellaneta, Sunrise K. And my question simply is, why did we convert the non-ad valorem tax to a utility bill instead of just adding additional monies for the water infrastructure as a base rate to the non-ad valorem tax?
It's not a tax.
Dan, go ahead and explain it to him one more time.
Well, but before you have to explain it to me one more time, it's been a non-ad valorem tax all this time. So why is it just not an additional add to the non-ad valorem tax? Why was it breaking down into a utility instead? Why make a discount? And then why not just add an additional monies for the infrastructure to the non-ad valorem?
Thank you. And again, it's not an ad valorem tax. It's a flat rate of assessment that's a separate part of your bill. I understand a comment, but
I understand that. I understand that, but it has been that way forever. Why the change? That's my question. I can't seem to get an answer. I'm not getting an answer now. Why did it change?
Dan, please answer this man in full. Please do that.
You're always yelling at people. Please don't yell at me. I'm asking a question. I don't need to be yelled at. Everybody, every time you interject onto the Zoom call, you're yelling at somebody for something. We're all grown-ups here. I'm asking a question. Just explain it to me. That's why.
I'm talking now.
Mute him just for a minute.
Okay.
And let him listen.
Just for the record, Zach Lombardo, District Attorney. Dan, you may feel free to answer this question, but what I'd like to point out, and we're about to talk about the rules of decorum conversation. This question that is being asked is something that has had workshops, public meetings. It's been discussed for, in my view, well over a year. There is an answer. It has been provided, and I'm not instructing anyone to not provide the answer now. But I want to just be clear, because when we get into this rules of decorum conversation, there's an overall framework that's happening in this meeting that we need to pay attention to. The board members are subject to the Sunshine Law. This is the one opportunity they have to receive feedback, talk among themselves, and give direction to their staff. And so, for that reason, it's typically very important to stay on task to the agenda, because we have a lot to accomplish in this cycle. And we had public comment. You received public comment. We're not in public comment right now. And we seem to be in kind of an open workshop on an unagended item. So I do not want to in any way suggest that the board should not answer all of the questions that are being asked, but I just want to remind everyone that we had workshops and meetings for a very long time about this, and generally speaking, every decision the board makes is some form of change. And just as an observational point, the method by which this district was billing and collecting for its utilities was categorically atypical across the state of Florida. It was not the normal way of doing this. And so, but that is a conversation that has been had extensively. And so my concern about the open free-for-all conversation is then it starts to get sort of aggressive, and we're accusing people of interrupting each other, but I think it's because we're potentially misunderstanding the purpose of this meeting and the restrictions on the board members. So the board members may be getting frustrated because they have things that they need to get accomplished in today's meeting, and we already had public comment, and we have public comment again at the end, and we take comment on every single item. So I'm going to stop there. I'm not having a conversation with you, sir. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to let Dan answer if he wants to answer, but I want to remind everyone that we have an agenda we need to get through. We took public comment. We're taking public comment at the end, and this particular issue has been discussed, and public comment has been received on it for well over a year and a half.
I'm simply asking for an answer to the question. There's no aggression here, not by me anyway. I'm asking a question. And you also stated...
Sir, let me answer your question. And again, we're totally off topic here. I said earlier at the beginning of the meeting that the decision was made to take this from a welfare model to a business and customer consumption model, because that's the way that utilities are valued and operated throughout the entire state. We're not aware of anyone who has used the welfare model in Southwest Florida to subsidize the customers of a utility system. So we went about this on a pragmatic business base to put our system on a business platform or foundation comparable to 100% of the other utilities in Southwest Florida. And with that, I would suggest that we move on because we are a little far afield.
One more question. Why not just adopt the Collier County base rate at $85?
It's not $85. I'm a customer of the counties, and I can tell you it's $185 every month.
It's $85 a month. Collier County is $85 a month.
I just spoke to their CFO earlier in the week because I'm trying to get to the next item here, which is 6B. We're going to present a survey of all the rates in Southwest Florida for comparable utilities, hopefully at next month's meeting.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Let me say one thing about Robert's Rules of Order. We can hold you to speaking in the beginning of the meeting and speaking at the end under public comments. We do not have to open the floor to take a raised hand or anything like that throughout the meeting.
It was just a question, sir.
Just wait. The other boards before this, held you to speaking at the end of the meeting, and I never thought that that was quite right because when they get to their topic through their meeting, if there's something that concerned myself or my community or something, you couldn't speak till the end of the meeting after they talked on it and voted on it. Then I'd get a chance to speak again. I never thought that was fair. All right, so our board talked about that, and we allow you to speak on the topic during the meeting, which we do not have to do. All right, that was our board deciding that we wanted it to be open and more user-friendly. All right, but at any time, we can shut this meeting down that you don't get a chance to talk till it's all over with and done with that public comments at the end of the meeting. That's Robert's Rules of Orders. Okay, so keep that in mind, that when we do take your raised hand or something, or ask you if you want to speak into what we're talking about, that's something that doesn't have to be done. That was this board's decision to include the public more into the guts of the meeting, okay?
Anything from Matt?
In the past, we had the open house at the plant in February when, most of the residents are here. So if you guys would like to do that next month, or maybe after the board meeting or something, we'd be happy to accommodate that.
Well, it's up to them. I just don't.
Coordinate a time that's convenient for your company. I would think on a weekend, maybe a Saturday, and if we can coalesce that and we can announce it or either try and schedule it through the website for February or March, I think it'd be appropriate.
Okay.
Sounds great. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
Item 6A today is the suggested CID's rules of decorum to be incorporated into your administrative policies and procedures. Straight up, we've had some recent issues of disruptive behavior. Unfortunately, one of them ultimately entailed a response by law enforcement who interviewed a series of residents here in the community, and we were advised by the Sheriff's Department that we should have some basic rules of decorum that would give the chairman the ability, if necessary, to call people out or to actually recess the meeting until order could be restored. But otherwise, verbal or physical threats or attempted physical threats of any nature, it's 2025 and you can't behave that way anymore. So we have reduced those to writing with the aid of Mr. Lee. They've been reviewed by Zach for legal sufficiency and
I do have.
go ahead.
What I'd like to, there's a couple things in here that I see in other districts that are not in here that I wanted to get feedback on. So typically, and not just districts, but counties and cities, typically there is a time limit given to speakers that is enforced evenly across all speakers. It's typically 3 minutes that you don't. And I guess let me back up and go, because we started talking about what is the purpose of this meeting, and what are the rules that govern this kind of regulation. So we've got the First Amendment is the obvious one, but there are actually Florida rules like 286 involving the open meetings and then the Sunshine Law issue. And so what you see a lot of jurisdictions do is they have what I would call two types of public comment. They have unagendaed public comment. They usually do this at the beginning of the meeting at a time certain, and then they will have public comment per item. And in all forms, they typically limit that to 3 minutes per speaker. And the other thing that you'll notice if you start watching Collier County, Marco Island, Naples, or some of your other boards in your stature, typically the boards do not treat this as question and answer sessions. Typically these are that the comment speaks. If a board member thinks it's particularly interesting, for example, Marco is pretty disciplined about this. What they will do is someone says something interesting and then they have council people comments at the end. And if they want to, they'll bring that person back up in council person comments to try to sort out whatever the question was. But importantly, and again, because of the Sunshine Law, and because this is your one opportunity to get feedback, not just from the public, but from your consultants and everyone that and each other, it's typically the case that public comment is limited to 3 minutes, and it's typically limited to certain portions of the agenda. You don't have to do those things, but I wanted to get your feedback on that. The other thing that other districts do that we represent and other jurisdictions do, and what you're allowed to do under the law, is basically requesting that if there's a series of comments on this, like that are the same comment, that essentially they be consolidated into one or less, or one or a smaller collection of speakers. Again, this particular board has been, in my view, extremely liberal in their approach to public comment compared to the other jurisdictions in Collier County. I think that's a good thing. And so I don't want to suggest rules that you don't need, but I want to just make sure we're clear about what are your sister jurisdictions doing. The answer is 3 minutes, only twice in the meeting. There's speaker slips. If the speaker slips aren't filled out, there's no speaking at all. And that's part of the record keeping piece of it. As far as the actual rules that were put down that we reviewed, we don't have a concern with the rules because again, it's balancing freedom of expression with the right that you have to orderly run the meeting and do your business. So I don't have a problem with this. What I wanted to figure out was, do we want to do these other things that aren't in here, which is the 3 minute limitation, the keeping public comment to agenda versus unagended items, limiting it to where it happens in the meeting. I do think that will somewhat change the character of these meetings. I don't want to do that, but I want to just get your feedback.
All of my clients adhere to the 3 minute rule, and there's, in general, try not to let the course of the meeting turn into a free-for-all where people are shouting or asking or, quizzing the board and that kind of thing. So it's, we do Talking Bay, Talking Marsh, Tiburon, Valley Resort, 2 other CDDs, and we are welcome and very accommodating that way, but that may be something you want to consider. So the intent here, though, is to put people on notice that disruptive or threatening behavior in society just cannot be tolerated. And when you're having to follow up after the meeting and provide, information to the sheriff's department, who are in turn, questioning people and whatnot, we need to put everybody on notice that threatening behavior is not going to be tolerated.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the CID safety rules of decorum.
So, and just with no 3 minute piece, no other rules, just as is.
I would like to see the modification that you suggest.
Okay.
Yeah, you want the 3 minutes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And then what about where in the meeting it happens? Is that also part of this, or just the 3 minutes?
Well, the way that we run it now is fine, and I don't have a problem with anybody asking a question that's relevant to the current conversation. I mean,
points of information would always be at the discretion of the chair.
Yes.
And if he determines that point of information is not a point of information, then you move on. But typically the 3 minute rule would be for any public comments at the beginning or the end of the meeting in accordance with Florida law.
Yeah, let's keep
Yeah, well, can't we keep the 3 minutes, and then if we want to address them again, we can recall them at the end, right?
That's the point.
Yeah.
And that, those sorts of things could also be incorporated under supervisor comments. And if a supervisor had a question that he felt, to Zach's point, was pertinent, that'd be the point to deal with that.
So I'm gonna add the 3-minute piece and a little bit of structure as to the meeting to it. What I was looking for today was just the confirmation that you've all reviewed this, the current draft. You do want to move forward with this. We've already published the notice for rule development, so we'll be able to move forward on it. And I wanted to talk to whether there were any other, pieces to it. Because again, it is a tough balance. You want to make sure that you're getting the right feedback from your community. But on the other hand, things can get derailed very quickly, and then it's hard to focus on whatever the rest of the meeting is. So I'll take. There was a motion made.
I think Annalise made a second.
I second it.
So I'm going to recharacterize the motion as to bring back the draft with the additional time.
I withdraw that motion and I'll just remake the motion. How's that?
Please do.
Okay. So we'll remake the motion that says we'll accept. I make a motion that we accept the safety rules of the decorum with the added changes that you recommend.
Okay, and so we'll bring back that.
I second it.
All in favor?
We'll bring that back through the formal approval process. There will be a newspaper ad, there'll be a draft that this public can review and comment on. And I just want to emphasize, this is, I think every single CDD we work with has enacted rules like this. And some of them, because some of them are we have one that is maybe 16,000 people or so. It's a very, very large CDD. And so they have a lot of struggles with losing time control of their meeting because they have quite a lot of associations. And so if everybody wants to speak, the whole meeting can be public comment for them. So that creates some issues. You don't necessarily have that issue, but there's lots of reasons why these are considered. So thank you for your feedback.
Item B today is informational. I have requested our rate consultant to provide me with the most up-to-date survey of rates tied to meters and with 5,000 and 10,000 gallons of consumption on the residential side, and so that's being prepared. I'll share it at next month's meeting, but if I get it in time, I'm also intending to include it in the February 15th utility bill as a separate piece of information. Item C today.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you talking about base rates?
I'm talking about combined rates for both 5,000 and 10,000 gallons per month of consumption. So it would include the base rate, but it would also factor in a single family or condominium unit who are consuming 5,000 to 10,000 gallons a month, what the additional charges would be.
Well, what I'm concerned about is that I understand the base rates for everything. I want to understand the base rate for condos. Okay, which is a 1 right now, right?
Right now, everyone's at 1 right now.
B&D boat slips, liveaboards. These are base rates. I don't care about the consumption, just base rates. Commercial slips.
Can you give me a better definition of liveaboards?
Everything that's not B&D as far as I'm concerned.
There's 118 liveaboard boat slips categorized as liveaboard boat slips in the marina.
Okay. And a handful of those include sewer, correct?
There's a few that are hard pipe, the rest are used to pump out boat, but they all include
so
sewer.
I'm just going to focus on water.
They all include, every boat out there has the option for sewer.
Okay.
But I'm looking at the base rate. Just the base rates. And then commercial slips, homes, we know that's 1. And these hotel miniums or whatever, these condos, whatever they're considered.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on that in just a minute further.
But I need those all listed out. I need to understand what our base rate is on all those.
I don't know what you mean by commercial slips.
Well, we have people taking.
Yeah, but currently they're not being treated any differently
They are
than.
not. We've had discussion at the last couple meetings, we had discussion about commercial.
For O&Ms.
Commercial.
Yeah, this is
okay.
It would fall under the water usage also.
But I just need, all I want is base rate for access to the water.
Okay.
Okay, and like I said, I don't know what these hotel miniums, the little tiny places.
I've been working with Mr. Truckee on trying to drill down into that, tied to meter size, but as you may recall, your adopted rate structure gives us the ability to either charge the industry meter standard or actual number of units that are being fed off that meter.
That's what I wanna.
And in particular, just this week had found that building F of the hotel condominiums may be one that needs particular attention because there could be up to 24 units that are tied to that one individual meter.
Right.
That
I
information
don't really
is,
care about the meter, I want the base rate.
I understand.
I don't care what size just base rate for that unit. And that would be water and sewer.
Yeah, and that requires
That's exactly what he's talking about, though, because the base rates. So we have some buildings that are fed with a big meter and everyone else has individual meters. So the question is, how do you break that down? If you have one meter that feeds 24 condos or one meter that feeds one house, you have to figure out if it's a base rate that's applied to meters, it wouldn't really cover the big meters.
But back at our meeting in July, after we were reviewing it, we said everybody had a base rate.
That's what we said.
Right.
And in lieu of more detailed information, the base rate coincides with the utility equivalency industry-wide for a meter that size. There are clearly meters in this community, though, that are, for whatever reason, were plumbed to increase the number of units that are receiving services from that meter. Your adopted rate structure gives us the ability to charge the actual number as long as we can prove those are tied to that 2-inch meter. And we're working off of a schedule that I have shared, and we'll be working with Ms. Hanson.
So now you just wanted the gobbledygook for me. I just want a base rate, and then I want it written down.
That's what it's coming down.
Okay, that you don't have to explain anymore.
It all starts with the 2-inch and above meters. And there are 38 of them in this community.
Right.
I'm gonna work on it next week.
But they're irrigation, half of those.
I don't care about
Now,
that.
the ones we're focusing on initially, though, are 2-inch meters for potable water and the associated sewer charges.
And you're saying there's 32 of those?
The ones that I have, hang on.
No, there's not.
These are all residential. It doesn't distinguish in this report that I pulled last night whether they are for potable water or irrigation water, but that's easily done. I'll just have to ask the staff that.
Can I go on the record here as to what I would like to see? And I'm just starting this out. I would like to see the residential, the homes at a 0.1 of a base rate. I would like to see the condominiums, the larger condominiums, at a 0.8 of a base rate. The little mini condos, let's call them, over at the hotel, I'd like to see them at a 0.6 of a base rate. The liveaboards, I'd like to see at a 0.5 of a base rate, and the water onlys at a 0.25 of a base rate.
When you said the first one, you meant one, right?
One, correct.
I meant one, correct.
Yeah, so
Okay, that I fell off the wagon there.
So what I heard was that the basically the single family homes represent, and because they are the equivalent residential unit, they are one, and then every other category is slightly less than a single family home.
And that's just a hybrid of what we had before.
Yeah, they're not currently that way though.
No, that's
Yeah,
that's
and it goes back to the point where they were saying how the condos increase was greater than the homes increase. And that's true because they aren't using that 0.8 anymore. They lost that. I know there's probably people on the board that'll disagree with me, but I just want to go on the record where I would like to see this go back to the way that it was before, only it being on a base rate rather than on an ERCU non-ad valorem.
Again, the time to review or revise those would, in my opinion, be mid-year. So if you'll run through your initial suggestion again, I've got the The 1 and the .8. On the residential side, go ahead.
The one after that was for those little, what I would call a mini condo, the 300 square foot condos at the hotel. I would do those at a 0.6 because that at one time, that's the way it was here. Okay, the liveaboards, I would like to go back to the agreement that we had with them before we went to the 1. I know I voted to go for the 1 when we did it, and I regretted it afterwards. I liked it when we worked with the people at the marina and we came up with a 0.25 on the water onlys, and then we came up with a 0.5 on the liveaboards. I like to see that, only that's on the base rate. Now, when it comes to the commercial docks, the board needs to have more input on that because I don't know where to go with that. But I'm just putting this out there for a starting point for my view. The rest of the board has their own views and they can express those as well.
All right, so we'll discuss it 6 months from now.
Okay.
Guys,
So noted, and again,
You're gonna know.
we will be working with Ms. Hanson over the course of the next month to try and distill some of this and produce some new schedules in anticipation that they will be reviewed at your April mid-year workshop. Is that fair?
Very good.
Right.
I thought we were gonna review some of the sewer because of the discrepancies between the multimeter units and
I think it's all one and the same. But I am trying to develop a better census of units actually tied to certain meters based off of information that we have received. And I'm only pointing to building F because that's the most recent information that I have.
Neil, could you request that the ones that you're having a problem with is like the marina, is the docks have got multiple units on a meter. The mini condos are multiple units on a meter and so forth. Could you request that the HOA presidents of those organizations give you how many meters that they have and how many accounts are being charged off of each one of those meters? I would think that would simplify your information a lot.
It would, Steve. Sometimes though, I'm relying primarily, there's no president's council here. And some of that information we've compiled off the Secretary of State's Division of Corporations. In other cases, though, I will tell you, a lot of these condos, I'm sending their bills to corporate accounting offices in Phoenix, Arizona, and I don't know who the local property manager is, or have contacts for the property managers who are usually a better source of that information. Condos over a certain size in Florida are required to have a website where I could also get some of that information. But yeah, if I could get a decent list of the contact for certain of these condominium associations, whether they're boat docks, hotels, or residential, it'd make our life a lot easier.
Well, someone from each one of those communities is probably sitting in that audience, and if they would be so good as to help you by getting a hold of their president and ask them to get a hold of you and start that dialogue.
Yeah, well, Ms. Hanson and I are going to try and schedule a time to begin some of this drill down effort, probably as early as late next week. And as I encounter, obstacles, or we have individual communities or associations where we don't have good contact information, then we'll make that known to the board and see if other people can point us in the right direction. It does not currently exist, and it is not available through our utility contractor. They don't have that level of information.
how do you plan on picking up the discrepancies that we have right now?
If we need to, we will devote field management staff time in conjunction with our engineer or Matt and their resources to come around, look at the meters and see if we can identify the number of units that appear to physically be in a building that is being served by a 2-inch meter or larger. And
So that means you'll back bill then for?
we would have to prepare a corrected bill if the board directed us to do that, but that would be my recommendation.
That's my only concern about waiting the 6 months, is that we know.
No, that could occur as early as February. I have the authority based off of when Mr. Kish made this suggestion at the final hearing, we revised the rate schedule to include either the industry standard or actual number of units tied to that size meter. And I would like to try and brush some of these initial.
We didn't say that. We didn't tie it to the size of the line. We were gonna have base rates, just like I'm talking about here.
Right.
We were not gonna.
I'm talking about how many base rates we apply to each meter.
I don't care how many base rates are to each meter. I
Other
don't
board-
care how many.
Other board members do care because.
Well, I wanna know how many billing accounts there are. I mean, if it's a residential address, it's a billing account.
Correct.
Right? If it's a commercial address, it's a billing account. If it doesn't have if we don't have a billing account for it already, we have a billing account, I want a rate on it. I want a base rate on it, whatever it is. Doesn't matter what size the line is. It depends on what the unit is.
So on potable water, it's different than commercial or anything else, right?
I'm primarily focused on residential.
Yes, so on the potable water, it's per unit.
Currently-
The size of the meter doesn't matter.
For the number of base rates for a residential community are going to be no less than 5 on a 2-inch meter for the actual number that are being served.
You said there was up to 24 on a 2-inch meter.
I'm told there is a single meter in this community that has 24 condominium units.
So you can't have, you mean you're gonna have a total of 5 whole units based on that?
No.
So I think the
Under the
residential
current
address
rates, under the current rates, that meter would be charged 24. Mr. McNamee has just made a suggestion that if there are in fact 24 for the hotel condo, that we consider revising those rates down to 0.6.
Just a starting point for the board.
That would take a vote of the board.
Yeah, I don't.
It's a complete shift, but I think the point is that's what the discussion in April is for, and we're gathering information to make sure that's a productive conversation, and that's what the chairman thinks, and
My
we'll free to
question is,
disagree.
in the meantime, Zach, we know we have this big discrepancy. We're leaving a lot of money on the table, okay?
I don't believe there are a lot of these that happen, but to Mr. Kish's point, if there are in fact 24 condo units on a 2-inch meter, and we incorporate Mr. McNamee's suggestion, they're going to be charged for that one account 14 base rates.
That's a 0.6 times
So
24.
Neil, can you also explain to them what you and I spoke about? How when Russ suggested that there were no 5/8 meters, and so we moved the 3/4 meter down, how that affected your numbers, because you basically lost about $25 or whatever. Can you explain that to the board, please?
Well, I think Mr. Kish's point was valid. The utility rates that were proposed had a threshold or a floor of $128 and change for water and sewer. And the suggestion was that it would be tied to a 5/8 inch meter. And there are no 5/8 inch meters here to our knowledge. And so we just pushed those down to the 3/4 inch meter. That became the starting or the smallest meter size in the community. And it pushed down into the next one. The nationwide standard for a 2-inch meter, I believe, is 8. And we have pushed ours down to a 5, but if we can.
We didn't have to push all those down.
No, we
I think
didn't.
that was one of the mistakes.
Okay.
So when you said nobody has a half, it starts at 5/8, but it doesn't push them all down. That the 5/8 would just be the
But
normal.
in that, we would need to revisit that as well, because it was certainly my interpretation and the utility rates consultant that we were going to adjust those at the same time. it does affect the base charge, begins, as I said, the threshold base charge, they'll remain the same at 128 bi-monthly.
That makes my head hurt.
But also, when we make these changes, if we choose to make these changes, we need to know how much money, say last year, we were taking in with the non-ad valorem and the utility bills. And we have to be able to compare that to what we're going to take in now. Because if we do what I'm suggesting, we're going to drop a bunch of income. So,
well, and I would also want you, Steve, to revisit. You also eliminated the tiered rates for irrigation. And
yes,
last year, our biggest source of income was irrigation. And when we went to a flat rate for irrigation, regardless of whether you used 100 gallons or 60,000 gallons, the rate is the same. And so if we're going to look at that mid-year, I'd want to start there because that has the biggest financial implications.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Okay, I'm making notes as we go here.
On to the next.
Are you prepared?
Are you thinking that you'd want to go back to the tiered rates? Is that what you're thinking?
I'm asking you to add that on the list of things potentially to be reconsidered. I don't have the ability to change the rates.
The tiered rates weren't fair across the board. That's the whole reason they went away, so.
Let's just revisit it later.
Item C today, this is from my notes last month. Because of the amount of water, the irrigation water we're pulling out of the canal, we had a problem that Mr. Baird made us aware of these little conical shells were being sucked into the intake valve and they were clogging filters all over the community. We had worked with our contractor, Soto, to install and replace some of the cartridge filters. Is that an ongoing problem? And because I was asked to have that on here for further discussion if warranted.
Seems to be working fine. They put in the big, large see-through filters.
Yeah, the cartridge filters.
Good, yeah.
Wait a minute, we're pulling irrigation water out of the canal?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You don't.
With our 75 horse main pump down, we have to.
Yeah, we don't generate enough sewage to meet the irrigation demand here. And so it's the source of bypass raw water, canal water, and treated sewage effluent is what makes up the total volume necessary for the demand.
Matt talked about they brought in another pump though because we can't use that canal water. So
we have the ability to monitor the chloride level in there because at a certain so many parts per million it'll start killing grass.
Now, is this new? Because we've had such a dry summer. Did we ever pull off the pump? I mean, I know we did once before, way back, like 2010 or something like that. Cause we were really
there have been times recently, which is why these shells were being sucked out of the canal water that caused the clogs throughout the system last month. But if the shell issue has gone away, the new additional pump comes back online. As a rule, we don't pull a lot of canal water out of there, but we don't generate enough sewage to meet the irrigation demand.
Neil?
With that pump, portable
Neil?
pump that Matt. Well,
hang on one second, Steve.
We should be drawing.
I agree. Go ahead, Steve.
Could we talk to our engineer about possibly putting in another freshwater well that would be only for that makeup water? Because we're going to start sucking salt water in for our irrigation, and it's going to start having a really adverse effect. And I'm wondering if we could add a second well, but have it on site rather than way out on that well field, so it won't be for potable water. It will only be for that. And I'm wondering if we could sink a well in there, if we could get a permit to put a well in, close to the water treatment plant for that makeup water. Would that be something our engineer could look into, or what do you guys think?
It could. I would tell you that in the urban area, it is almost impossible to get a well that size now anywhere west of I-75, or for that matter, Collier Boulevard. But I can ask him to see, we have a consumptive use permit by the state that allows for the maximum amount that we can pump. And I can ask him, could we conceivably drill a new well in the community to provide that raw water? My quick answer, though, is it would be almost impossible to get a permit to do that.
So then, would the next thing be having to look at putting in an additional holding tank to make up the difference? Because we're not going to be able to pull that salt water out of the canal here before long and put it on people's lawns. Salt and lawns don't go together. And spraying on their houses, they're worried about, the discoloration now. Well, we got to face facts here. The water that we were pulling in before is not the water we're going to be pulling in the future.
The answer to that question is in the making already with an additional 250,000 gallon storage tank. And I spoke to South Florida Water Management about the possibility of expanding the well field. She put me in touch with the DEP, which would have to, the permit process would be through the DEP to expand the wells. So the easiest way to do it is when our new pipe goes in, we spec'd out a 10-inch pipe, which can handle extra wells. We overbuilt that intentionally. We have to get permission to drop. I personally think it's expanding our well field where it's at. If you put a well in by the community here, you may be subject to saltwater intrusion even in the new well. So I think you have to get back to a well field where you won't have that issue. And we'd have the pipes and pumps and everything in place to do it. We just have to add an additional well or two out in the well field.
I want to start with what are the current limits of our consumptive use permit for all sources, and then take it from there, sort of a source and use of that well. But here recently, we have been pulling water out of the canal, and we would in the event of a fire, a major fire, if we didn't otherwise have the demand. But I've made that note, and the answer about the engineers, yeah, he's the appropriate contact.
I got a question. All right. North of here, Oil Well Road and 29, there's 3,300 homes going in there. We got 1,300 homes going in down the street across from Publix. All these things are going to affect our aquifer, is it not?
Yeah, that's why I've said it. So you can't get a permit to drill a raw water well anywhere west of Collier Boulevard.
To me, it seems like we need to go to a storage tank that we fill up during the season, rainy season, and so that we've always got the water, and then we can just supplement it as we go. But I think the water, because when I lived in the States in 2004, 2003, it was really dry, and I ran out of water because all the development that was going on then, it was going crazy then. I had to drop the well 40 feet.
It happens every year now in Cape Coral.
Yeah, so we gotta. Not that I'll be here for that, but who knows.
Okay, I'm down to item D then on my report. We were scheduled to begin the methodology and impact or fee or ERC rate analysis with Mr. Wire. And in advance, Mr. Kish and I had a teleconference with him in November. Mr. McNamee and I had a teleconference with him in December in anticipation of a January start. He has sold his business to a company called PFN Group and has not been responsive to my request after the holidays, which is what he asked me. So I have a call in to their Orlando office to see if in fact there's not someone else who is capable of doing that if Russ's situation is not going to be available going forward. He hasn't responded to me at all in the last 2 weeks. But he was acquired by a larger company. Russ previously worked for this company, and so I have a call in to the designated contact that I was given. I'll share that information with you as soon as I get a response, but we're not starting that this month just because I never get a fee proposal or an engagement letter, which is what he's done in the past. And with that, if there are no other questions, I'm down to the financials. This is item 7. These are your financials of the second month of the fiscal year. So we're only 2 months in here, but on the balance sheet, just from a high-level perspective, the district has $5,281,000 in cash on hand at the end of the month. Split between the operating account, $4,025,000, and the utility account, $1,256,000. So we continue to be in a very strong cash position in both of those funds. Additionally, there are about $16 million in fixed assets, $7,404,000 net of depreciation for the value of your utility plant and associated infrastructure, roads and streetlights in particular. There were $60,000 in payables outstanding at the end of the month that are shown separately on the liability portion of the balance sheet. Looking at the income statement, I think a couple of things are meaningful here. November is sort of the low water mark of the year for your revenues because we've been operating, I don't get new revenues until the month of November. And so you'll see that in November we took in about 45% of all of your anticipated revenues in 1 month. We had $345,000 in non-ad valorem assessments come in just in the month of November. That's people chasing that 4% discount that is available for early payments. Also, we had $10,300 in interest earnings on that account just for the month of November. That continues to be strong. We've got a forecast of $160,000 this year in interest earnings just on that one general fund account. Some of the things that we do are seasonal or front-loaded, like tax collector and property appraiser fees and insurance premiums. So again, you'll see some expenses there, but that represents some of the total annual charges for the property appraiser. In addition, you own that piece of commercial property at the entrance of the community. We're still obligated to pay taxes on that because of its commercial zoning as opposed to institutional type use zoning. So we processed payment for the taxes on the commercial parcel that were $9,000. Those are the highlights. This does not reflect some of the recent invoiced capital improvements for some of the lift station rehabs. We're spending about $60,000 each. You'll see those next month because they were processed and paid and reimbursed to Florida Utility Systems at that time. Happy to answer any questions 2 months in, but otherwise you can entertain a motion to accept them.
Neil? Neil,
Yes, sir.
in the past, I have been getting our non-reoccurring bills such as legal and engineering and so forth. I'm no longer getting that, and I'm not comfortable with us just passing financials without somebody on this board looking through our bills to make sure that they're proper and that they're headed in the direction that we want. So once again, I would like to be provided with those.
Yeah, that would be an oversight because they're, in the past we've provided those in addition to this report. So I'll do that before the end of the day. We'll back them up back to the beginning of the fiscal year, if that's a good starting point for you.
Very good.
Do you want to see the FUS bills other than those that are, our monthly base charges?
I think that the monthly base charges that are reoccurring, I don't need to see, but I would like to see the rest.
Okay, I'll do that before the end of the day.
Thank you.
Motion to accept?
I just got one question. We don't have any, like the HOAs have a mandatory reserve. We don't have any reserve there, set there. I mean, because, everybody's talking about deficit spending, and we don't want to be doing that because we don't want to have a mortgage, basically, right? We're pulling interest on that money. We don't want to have to be paying interest on what we take out, right?
Yeah, we do. We do budget a contingency reserve, and I routinely update the forecast on what the fund balances and reserves will be as part of the budgeting process. CDDs are not required to have designated reserves
like we're not required to reserve, we can, for lack of a better term, commingle. Condominiums and HOAs have to budget separately for roof reserves, pool reserves, clubhouse reserves, things of that nature. We don't have those constraints, but we do have contingency reserves, and I'll call them capital reserves for that would otherwise show up on the balance sheet as fund equity. I'll update that when I give you the tentative budget in May. But we're not required to do them by category.
No, I just wonder if we had it.
We do.
Yeah.
Motion to accept?
I'll make the motion to accept.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 8 today is the engineer's report. Zach, you have, I'm sorry, attorney's report.
Yep. Three things. One, last meeting I was asked the specific number on the motion for fees, and I didn't know offhand, and it is approximately $70,000. That's what's been filed, and it's being set for hearing. So as a result of the prevailing in the Pratt lawsuit, we'll be pursuing your fees based on them not taking the settlement offer that you provided. I did send a memo around as requested about the Marina ERC purchase that did not take place. As detailed in the memo, the Marina twice in two different site development plans provided a utility availability letter, which I have a copy of here for you, but it's also in the memo, in which the district, your prior manager and your prior engineer wrote a letter clearly stating and calculating that the Marina needed to purchase 16.7 additional ERCs. After talking to your engineer and your manager, it doesn't seem like that ever happened. And so this is something that, in our view, needs to be addressed. But the question is then, how do we address this? Because what is suggested in this memo is that some of the ERCs that you held back in parcel 13 that's what we sold to the Marina. This rust wire delay is causing a significant issue here because we were banking on and are wanting rust wire to help value these ERCs, because while it is my opinion, based on all the documents that I've been provided, that the Marina does need to purchase these ERCs, we need to figure out what we're asking from a price standpoint, because otherwise it's hard to say, here's what we want if we can't say what the number is. So now, of course, the Marina could purchase ERCs from another seller, potentially. I was unaware of there being another seller. But what is the case is that in any site plan approval from Collier County, there is a requirement to show utility availability. And importantly, it was not you. The Marina provided this letter to the county to say, look, there is capacity and we can buy it, and then didn't buy it. So it is something that needs to be addressed. It has been talked about before. There was a discussion on the record about trying to use this to settle the Pratt lawsuit as part of the global settlement, and that was rejected by those parties at that time. But now we need to address this. So I am sharing this because factually this is where we are, but I need to understand what we're asking for from a financial standpoint before I move forward with something like a demand letter. And so my hope is that if Russ, this replacement company, is on board in February, we can get to this number. But short of having the number, it's hard to know how to resolve the issue. So that's two. Available for questions, because the third thing is simple. We have not heard back from counsel for Lindsay Case about their status, and I do want to remind everyone that based on the opinion you received from the Salvatore firm, a decision is going to need to be made at the next board meeting about whether you're going to take any action about that, the takedown agreement. It doesn't need to be made today, but it does need to be made at the next board meeting. And so we can reach back out to counsel for Lindsay Case, Greg Truxton, about whether there's any development, but we have at this point answered every single question they have. We've had meetings with them, with both myself and your real estate counsel, and the ball's in Lindsay Case's court. So that's where those three things stand, and I'm available for any questions you have about any topic at all.
we couldn't look at like an impact fee that we charge, that the county charges for a single family home?
No,
Not the whole thing, just the water and sewer part of it?
No, the reason why, the reason why not is because that's based on their system. And there was a question asked earlier by someone about just using, like, for example, a county base rate. All of these concepts, impact fees, base rates, these are based on your actual system, the actual capital size of it, the maintenance costs, and so future expansion pieces of this system. And so we can't go grab somebody else's details and say, well, this is what they charge, so we're going to charge it. We have to do an individualized analysis of your system. Otherwise, we'll be being arbitrary. And we can't, that's kind of like the guiding light here, is we cannot be arbitrary.
Zach, one other thing that I've been thinking about a lot is this ERC thing. Now, people are thinking that we don't need ERCs anymore, but we do, because we still have operation and maintenance and so forth to pay for. But when this system was set up, it was set up with the capacity of an ERC using 300 gallons a day. And so they designed a plant that was supposed to be able to serve 1,032 ERCs. The problem with it is we have never followed where those 1,032 ERCs are assigned. At one point, that RV park had 300. That's the same land that Lindsay Case is on now. So through all this, we've got no information as to where those ERCs are assigned. And that's one of the reasons that this marina thing fell through, because the 16.7 ERCs that they were supposed to buy should have been on another piece of property, just like the hotel has an additional 33 ERCs that they are not currently using. But we don't have a spreadsheet.
Just to be clear, what's in the 2018 letter from the prior manager is that they were on another property. They were on parcel 13. That's specifically referenced in the letter. So it's not, this letter is not saying that the CID has this bank of them that are unallocated. It's saying that the CID recently acquired parcel 13 and has the ability to transfer existing ERCs off of that parcel. So it's not using a bank method. It's saying that they have existing ERCs on an existing piece of property.
And actually, that wasn't my point. This is an addition to what is going on over there. I'm just saying that we can't put a name or a number on the 1,032 ERCs. We have never tracked since the inception of this place where these things are. You can go through the records and there's 25 different places saying who has what, and there's been transfers done over the years, all these places, but there's no spreadsheet or something that shows who owns what, and we need to address that.
So my understanding is you all have tasked your engineer with trying to address this, and what I think desperately needs to happen here is, and because it hasn't happened in a few board meetings, I think we need the engineer to come to a board meeting, because we need to have this discussion. I don't know if he doesn't need to be physically here, but he can be on Zoom. We need to, if the engineer, after looking at all the documents, which is what you tasked him to do, agrees with you that there's basic, and I think he's going to agree with you, that there is not a trackable way to determine this, then we need to start talking about what the next option is.
Create one.
Exactly, because it is hamstringing your ability to take what would otherwise be fairly obvious action across multiple areas of your operation. And so I think at this point, months ago, tasked the engineer with looking at this. And so my recommendation would be to bring, even if just by Zoom, the engineer to the February meeting to specifically, and the point of the question is, one, did you find this thing that we all think isn't there? And I assume the answer to that is no. So then two, it's, what do we do now? How do we figure out how to determine what, as best we can, where everything is, so we can move forward? Because I agree that we're in this ridiculous position in the sense that we can't say they are exactly here.
Neil, can we make that happen with the engineer?
Yeah, there's nothing there. He has alluded to that.
I understand. Can we get him on, the phone at the next meeting?
Yeah, and I think the next step though would be at the same time if the PFM group will also send us an engagement letter to create an ERC charge that could be part of this overall equation. Right now, we don't have a basis to say this is what an ERC is worth, and we need to have an engineering basis or an econometric basis of whatever the charge is going to be, and then try and take the existing capacity and spread that across the unbuilt lots that are here as a way of, creating this schedule that has never existed in the community. I agree.
And we have to get moving on this, because that marina ERCs alone there has been going on 8 years now of uncollected assessments. It's cost a lot of money for people to have overlooked this. And it seems like we're just pushing this down to the next meeting and the next meeting. We've got to start putting some of these issues to bed.
We were supposed to have a cost of an ERC, because I talked to all of you about it, having a cost of an ERC a couple meetings ago. And now we're kicking it off to the next meeting. Why doesn't it get done? There were supposed to be meetings between Steve and Russ Weir. We were gonna have those. If you can't do it, it can't just keep getting pushed down. Probably our biggest mistake here is that we allow things to get pushed from one meeting to the next. All right, we never put anything to bed. And it just becomes a bigger workload down the next meeting or the meeting after, the next meeting after. We didn't have time, whatever. This kind of stuff has to get done. That's the biggest complaint I have about the way things work right now, is that we don't put this stuff to bed. Let's do it. You need a spreadsheet for the 1,032 ERCs? Let's make one. We know there's not one, so let's make it. Where do we get the information? Well, the engineer might be able to find something back in the archives for the engineering. We might be able to find something in the archives from when the CID was put together a while back. All right, we have to just dig it up and start putting it together. And the pieces that we don't have, we're going to have to fill in. But that has to be made. So why are we going to push that to the next meeting? Bring the engineer in and have him tell you, yep, we don't have one. That's ridiculous, guys. Come on.
Yeah, engineer has the ability to do that.
There's no accounting at all of how ERCs were invoiced or paid. And so that's not really an engineering perspective. I think in fairness, to the engineer can...
Well, we don't need to keep paying him to research it.
No,
we haven't.
It's not there.
Oh, okay.
He did that several months ago, and he says there's nothing here. There were no records that were ever kept.
Okay.
It's just like us talking about this phantom pool of ERCs that we've got. There should not be a pool. That ERCs should have always been connected to a piece of real estate. Always. It couldn't be taken off a pool. There's nothing in our rules of procedures or in our bylaws that allow that to happen. But our past management company they brought that up to the board, and the board didn't push back on it. And so that became the new norm. What I'm saying is we have to go back. Originally, there was 90 ERCs on that North Hotel. Those 90 ERCs need to go back on that hotel. First of all, that's an asset of theirs, and we removed their asset. I don't know how that was even legal. So there's, but let's get this done. Let's start working on these things.
Now we need a firm.
I agree. And as I sit here right now, based on the fact that he no longer is responding to telephone or emails, I don't believe that it will be Mr. Wire when he led you and I and Steve to believe that he was willing to do the work. So I have reached out to other sources in the firm to see if they can designate someone else who could do the project. As it pertains to the engineer, he will be part of putting a value on those ERCs, because in the 2 years that I've been here, we've not been asked to produce a letter to the county telling them that we have the capacity or that they have in turn been invoiced for that capacity. There just hadn't been any new construction or new development that way. But if somebody came in tomorrow and they said, hey, we're coming over from Weston and we're going to build a house on a vacant lot, we need to have that in place, and we need to have, I guess, to Steve's point, we need to assume that all the other properties here have paid, or in the case of the old hotel, if we have reason to believe that they were stripped off, then we need to put those 90 ERCs back on the North Hotel site. And then somebody says, oh, well, no, here, I bought my vacant lot from so-and-so, and in 1989, he paid an ERC to the Port of the Island, but I don't think people have those sort of records either. So we're just going to have to recreate that.
We have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
We can't keep kicking it down the road. We've been doing that with a lot of items. Let's talk about Lindsay Case's O&Ms. We passed the resolution last year sometime that said we do 4 per acre. I talked to you about that several times, about Lindsay Case needs 4 per acre on there. Right now he's paying, what, $70,000 or something in O&Ms. At 53 acres, 4 per acre, he should be paying 200 on it.
Well, that was on the scope of services for Mr. Wire's update. That and double lots and commercial boat docks.
All of these things are part of the
So we passed the rule.
No, you adopted an assessment methodology that specifically allocated that parcel. And so we're...
Okay, so Zach, let's talk about that. When I talked to you about that, you told me that you guys, your law firm has terminated that agreement. You said that you did.
Right. So the agreement is the ERC agreement. That's not an O&M transfer. The O&Ms have never moved, and you've charged the O&Ms on that property.
Right, but when his contract terminated, he falls under whatever orders or laws we have here at the CID, because his special treatment, his contract terminated, correct?
The contract had nothing to do with O&Ms.
Certainly did.
Okay, well then I guess we disagree. I don't know what to say about that. It was an ERC purchase agreement.
It was.
And he didn't purchase the ERCs.
Right, but
And you
when
have
his contract,
ERCs and you have O&Ms.
but when his contract terminated, which I don't believe it did, I believe he can be held to it, and we can argue that all day, but that really gets under my skin because of the way that worked out, all right? And your law firm had a lot to do with that. Not you, but your law firm did. All right? However, the O&Ms, if that contract did terminate, if it's over, like you say it is, then he falls under the rules we have here today. And those rules are 4 per acre, and you might as well get something out of the guy because he's shorted us. All right? So get your 4 per acre. It's going to bring you way more money than 70 grand he's doing right now. And that's it. Steve, how many ERCs are you going to charge per acre, Steve?
4. I'm being charged for 7 on my lot that I have left now. As far as I know, I'm being treated completely different than everybody else. Everybody thinks that I'm figuring out how I can pay less. I'm paying more than Lindsay Case. I'm paying more than that old hotel. I'm paying more than everybody.
Right, so we passed that. We passed that at a board vote. All right, so that means that vacant property has to be charged 4 O&Ms per acre. So let's charge Lindsay 4 per acre. We should have started a long time ago. It's money left on the table.
Update the assessment methodology, which is what we tried to hire Russ to do, and I cannot control the fact that Russ will not respond to Neil. I mean,
But the thing of it is,
it has to be based on.
But that's old.
You would have to formally amend the most recent approved methodology to go back to the default acreage on that parcel. You can do it.
It's already on the books.
If Steve is paying 4 per acre, that means it's already on the books.
It's on the book.
Right.
So if it's already on the books, why
But the
is Lindsay Case paying
methodology,
it?
yeah, the methodology schedule for Mr. Case's parcel in particular had a different number on it. And that was adopted by the board. The board would have to go back and amend it to strike that and put the 4% default number on there.
And
if you choose to
we
do
did
so.
that.
And Chairman McNamee's property is also specifically called out. So all these properties are specifically called out in the assessment methodology. So they all have their own row in the spreadsheet, and they all have an allocation in the row.
But when we vote to put 4 per acre on vacant property, that spreadsheet's automatically update to the new rules.
My understanding is you voted to approve this specific spreadsheet. It has specific direction as to everyone's O&Ms. And so that's what gives your manager the direction to then move forward with the assessment. And so this did come up around that time, and the suggestion and what I thought was going to happen was we were going to update the assessment methodology with this new information that the takedown agreement is no longer in place. Or is in some sort of dispute. What's not disputed is he doesn't have the ERCs. So if he doesn't have the ERCs, then he shouldn't be treated any differently than vacant property. I agree with you, but it needs to be in that methodology.
Well, why didn't we do that at the next meeting?
Because we were attempting to engage Mr. Weir to do the 3rd update to the methodology in the 2 years that I've been here.
But the 4 per acre was actually his methodology. That's where it came from.
Right.
Yeah, but it was all tied to parcels. It was at the same time where we decided that, the cell tower had never paid any support. So we added that parcel and that tax ID number to the schedule to begin to assess him the same way we did the residential parcel in the southeast corner. And the methodology goes and matches to either categories like single family or vacant parcels tied to zoning, and it was all detailed. And so we are eligible to do that, but we need to have a revised
The confusing
schedule.
part is that how many months has it been, and why are we talking about it today when we should have been taking care of
We've
it?
been talking about this since the budget workshop last year to engage Mr. Weir to perform that analysis. And in advance of that, both Mr. Kish and Mr. McNamee and I have had teleconferences where he assured us that he would begin the work in January.
Okay, so we can point the finger at Weir and be done with it, let's just fix it.
Let's fix it.
I'm looking for another economist in the same firm that now owns his company to see if we can do that.
Well, it's mandate that we get it, I don't know how.
We have a tendency.
I don't think we're kicking the can down the road on this. He led us to believe that he would start in January. It's the 2nd week of January, and he no longer is responding to give me an engagement letter or a start date.
Let's move on from him then. Let's just get it done.
Anything else, Zach?
No, I was just answering questions.
So you're gonna get somebody, that's the point.
Yeah.
All right.
They're a national firm with offices all over the country. Surely they're looking to do work,
Let's get them in here.
I might check out this next week.
Under old business, I did distribute the January updated task list that you have asked us to do every month. As these things get accomplished, we have begun to take them off the list because we were getting up to, I think the vast majority of stuff here was done. The one rare exception, I don't even recall now, is whether or not CDDs are eligible to charge franchise fees, presumably on cable, television or internet services.
It doesn't seem to be the case, but I'll submit a full memo on that.
The Orchid Cove streetlight billing matter is ongoing, and our liaison there, for the board's liaison, we're continuing to work through that, have some sort of proposal. I think we got some pushback from Orchid Cove. This simple 1.5 page agreement that was entered in 2 years ago, to me, seems to have been met. I think their contention is that it goes in perpetuity, so we're going to evaluate some other issues concerning the appropriate number of street lights, and Mr. Truckee and I are working on that particular matter at his request. I'm not aware of any other open or unresolved items that have
One
previously
modification
been.
I'll make is that we discussed re-inviting Representative Mello after session started, so I was going to invite her to either your March or April meeting to see if she could give you some more time and so we can get some session updates.
This is the fire
That's on the fire
Yeah.
issue, but I think it's also, it's something that could also be about the comprehensive village restoration issues and then of course generally since the legislature is taking a whack at ad valorem taxes, it's worth understanding how that's going.
It says the mosquito stuff is done. Are we selling any old materials? What happened to that?
We're going to do that in conjunction either with the Island CID upcoming auction this spring, or if I can ask the county, because the county actually hires a professional auctioneering service and markets their auction extensively, for which they, get
What
a
about the
commission.
chemical? Did we give that to?
Same thing, I've offered it to the mosquito control district, have not heard back. I think that's the better use of it, rather than taking it to the transfer station and having it disposed of as a controlled substance. So we've offered it. I think there's one 55-gallon drum. That takes us down to other supervisor requests.
I have a request. Can you bring the board up to date on your employee situation and introduce us to Kevin's replacement that you told me was going to be there today?
And he is Billy Sparaccio. Billy, if you raise your hand. Billy is a new member of our staff. Kevin Carter, who has done field management with me for almost 13 years, accepted a full-time employment position with the Island CID, but he's still available for consultation. Billy Sparaccio has a degree from Colgate University, was a accomplished football player there, has a degree with 2 majors from Colgate, and has been in Collier County his entire adult life in public and private education. Most recently, the athletic director of First Baptist Academy, and has extensive background in project management and construction, having developed probably $5 or $6 million in athletic facilities there, and has already had an orientation session with Mr. Carter and been introduced to the other board members.
How much experience has he had with working with CDDs?
The same as Kevin when he first came to work. Not really any, but that's why Kevin is available for consultation on the 3 main areas, being FEMA grants and representation on the local steering committee, issues pertaining to drainage in single-family neighborhoods. And we'll work on contract administration with landscaping matters and FUS as required. Same as Kevin.
Welcome aboard, Billy.
Any other supervisor requests?
I have a couple of just things to say. Our grants right now, we're going through extending all the grants. It's paperwork we've been filling out for the last few days to get the grants extended into 26 and 27. Who knows when FEMA is going to actually address them, but they're on their table and we're doing some of that. The Everglades Restoration Project, have you guys ever sued Corps of Engineers?
No.
Thinking about it?
I think that there's a claim here, and I think there's a claim under the Comprehensive Village Restoration Program. The act requires either preventing the damage or paying for the damage, and
both.
It depends on. I think it needs to be pursued because the meetings that we attended, certainly they obviously disagree that that's what's happening, but the facts as you outline them are pretty simple. There was a plan to build a berm to protect Port of the Islands. It was discussed at Port of the Islands meetings, actually. I mean, this was well over a decade ago, but it was heavily discussed in the community. It was discussed in all the right channels, and then somehow the berm is not being built. And that decision was not discussed with you all. It was not at your meetings. It just sort of happened. And now that they're actually cutting the canals, we don't have a berm. And it's kind of hard to imagine that that's not having an impact on you.
There are so many impacts that are showing up as we go down the road, right? We have water quality because we don't get flushed anymore. We have water quality because the marina dumps all their gray water into the bay here, all right? And that doesn't get flushed anymore. It's creating it. You can see it. You can see it all the time, all right? So we have water quality issues from the restoration project. We have saltwater salination issues from the restoration project. We have flooding issues and costs in the millions from the Everglades Restoration Project. All right. at some point, we're gonna have to be heard.
No, I think now is at some point. I think the question is what I will point out is what the Corps brought to that second meeting was a significant amount of well data. And so what I request, if this is the direction we're going, is I'd like to meet with you, Dan, to go over your reaction to that data. I'd like to not do that in this meeting, but I'd like to talk through your reaction to the data they came up with, because that is their immediate and obvious response. And they did provide essentially their response at the current moment, which I don't think this is correct, but their response at the current moment is that the wells show that what's actually happening is a sea level rise issue. It has nothing to do with anything that they're doing. And of course, they have very carefully tailored their well data to make that story appear in the data. And so what I would say is we need to make sure that we know that's what they're going to say, so we need to anticipate that with our initial approach on this. And so I'd like to meet with you to figure out.
The data we brought to that meeting, right? One of the diagrams I brought there was their own drawing of the basin, and the basin being 4 times as full as it was before the restoration project.
I know, and then if you recall, they then went to individualized pump data and had all of these graphs showing either reduction in groundwater or even groundwater. That's what I want to go over with you. But I think it is high time to do something about that, and it's certainly, again, what is striking to me is that the federal government and South Florida Water Management District met with this community, had town halls, and chose to build a berm, and then didn't meet with you all and removed it. And so I think that's a significant indicator of a problem, because if it was really that clear that you didn't need it, they could have easily had a meeting with you and said, hey, I know we talked about this, but this is what I think, this is why you shouldn't worry about this. Here you go. Instead, you weren't told about it, and then they started doing it. And the only reason why this came up, as far as I'm aware, is that Supervisor Truckee just digging into the reality of this. I think it was after, was it Hurricane Ian that started the questions, because you got a lot of sheet flow in Ian that was not typical for this community, given prior hurricanes that have gone glancing by.
So Dan?
Yeah.
We already have a pretty good idea where this is going to go, don't we? So let's not kick this one down the road anymore either. Let's start a litigation. Let's figure out who you're going to use for a legal firm, and let's move forward with this, because it's going to go there. There's no sense wasting time talking about it.
I agree. This is the first board meeting that we have talked about it, that you have talked about it as a board. And so if you are going to look for specialized counsel, what Neil just pointed out to me, and I agree with, is that Lewis Longman Walker does a lot of these kinds of claims involving these agencies. And then you will most likely need to also retain a consultant to corroborate the data.
Did we lose the meeting?
We're talking about it right now. Mm-hmm. And I told you our firm has not done litigation like this before. It would make sense that you would get a specialized firm to do this particular issue. I've identified who I think can do this, but that's just me and Neil sitting here at the board meeting talking it. I don't know that Lewis Longman Walker will be willing to undertake this, or that they're the right firm. But I can reach out to them. I can bring this back to you. But we don't meet again until February. So I just want to get in front of this accusation that we're kicking the can down the road, because I'm hearing it right now and I'm gonna do it. But I didn't know that we were gonna do this.
No, this is not part of what I said about kicking down the road.
And I apologize, the chairman's
That's fair.
more than yours.
I agree. That wasn't my intention.
Okay, no, I just want to make, because I believe, I was in those meetings and then it didn't come back up, and I firmly believe this is something the district needs to get involved in. It is, the facts, as Supervisor Truckee has discovered them, are alarming. And at the bare minimum, it needs to be looked into. But I agree with you, Chairman McNamee. I think we do know where this is going, because the way that you were responded to by South Florida and the Corps was extremely dismissive And potentially, that's an indication that this needs to be looked at very carefully.
Thank you for that.
So just to confirm, I will reach out to the Solomon Walker, and since Supervisor Truckee has so much involvement with this, if they respond to me within, like, I'm going to email them today. I work with them on other matters. If they respond back, I will try to get on a phone call with them and Supervisor Truckee before the meeting, so we can try to flesh out some of the nonsense. So, for example, if they say no, but use this firm, then we'll talk to that firm and bring you that proposal, so we're not wasting time.
And the reason that I mentioned that, Zach and I are in complete agreement on this. They would be the preferred firm. They are a West Palm Beach-based firm, but also have offices in Tallahassee and maybe Washington, D.C. I'm not sure. And they work closely with RMA Geologic, who are the groundwater and recharge and flood experts for the entire west coast of Florida. So that's a good start.
It's going to take a firm. It's going to take the right firm, because we've talked to numerous politicians. Lauren Mello, that was just here, she walked away from it. Everyone we talked to just walks away.
But this is based off of my year's experience, this would be the desired firm if they're willing to take you as a client, because they deal almost exclusively in environmental and resource and water permitting laws in Florida.
What's the name of the firm?
Lewis, Longmire, and Walker.
Longman and Walker.
Longman and Walker.
It's
All right, I'm gonna look it up a little bit.
llw-law.com.
LLW.
And RMA Geologic, which would be their technical consultant, who are based in Cape Coral.
Okay. That's all I have.
Any other supervisor requests?
Yes, we had a petition a while ago of over 170 signatures about security and gates, and so I'd like to bring that back up again. Actually, I'd like to make a motion to direct our management company to send out RFPs to look into gating the community, including Carter Fence, and approve a budget up to $100,000 for the possibility of constructing these gates.
If I could, you remember this failed when we did an RFP looking for a consultant to do a security assessment.
Right.
I would prefer that the motion give me the ability to contact some of the key providers and see if they would be willing to give us a proposal as opposed to an RFP. And they would be Allied Security, Envera, perhaps MLR Electric, and New IQ. They are installers of security, kiosks, gate systems, cameras, and license plate reader cameras. And I'd rather be dealing with the people that are going to design and install something as opposed to, just doing another RFP. We got no responses to the RFP that was advertised in direct solicitation by email.
Okay.
We're getting a lot of pushback on communities that don't want this gated idea. How do we go about deciding whether or not we're going to do this? I mean, is this going to be just a board decision, or are we going to? How are we going to handle this?
I think initially it would be two-phase. I think you would do things that would be passive, like security and license plate reader cameras. And then there could also be more physical gates and kiosks and either virtual guards or things like that. And I have clients that do both. But I think the passive response would be one cost component. It's going to be camera driven and license plate driven, and especially if we can have the license plate readers integrated into the sheriff's 911 system that has maybe 1,000 cameras already in place in the urban area. The other one would be far more expensive if we were going to try and create gated entries and kiosks and virtual guards and things like that. That's a much bigger project.
I understand that's the hardware of it, but my question was, how do you address Orchid Cove and the marina who are in this meeting voiced the fact that they don't want it? How do we decide as a board what we're going to do?
Look, we need numbers. Okay?
Yeah.
When that sheriff's department was here, I asked them for comparison. You talked about that next community down there, Eagle, whatever the hell it is.
Reflection Lake.
No, Reflection Lakes? No, the one before that, down on the left here. And she was gonna check into that. The crime rate there versus the crime rate here, and we never heard back from her. Nothing.
At some point, where our vulnerable areas are, and maybe address that. I mean, if you can just walk down the seawall into somebody's property, maybe we need some fencing.
Maybe we could buy burners for everybody, you know, those non-lethal guns, and we'll just pass them out and we'll shoot people on the dock.
But maybe, maybe fencing and
Yeah.
I think we need to look at both.
I'm not an expert in the field, but I do have clients that have virtual guards and have elaborate security cameras. I don't have any whose license plate reading cameras are also integrated into the sheriff's system. And you can do that, but you gotta have compatible technology, and that's a little over my pay grade. So my suggestion is to reach out to the 4 vendors that I suggested and start with the simplest thing to do, which would be cameras and then license plate reading cameras.
Please do that.
To install that. If you get into gates and kiosks and virtual guards and internet-based, it gets far more expensive, a lot expensive, but still less than building guard gates and putting guards in them. Okay, I've made that note.
It would be an RFP, and then you would specifically reach out to someone, because just from a procurement standpoint.
I've recommended the 4 different firms who install and maintain systems, and so given the $100,000 initial threshold, I'm not obligated to do sealed bids or have designs or anything like that.
Just so everyone knows that I did talk to the Sheriff's Department, District 5. They talked about having the sheriff's officers here more often, which they have been. I've met him on the seawall in the last 3 weeks. I've met him out there twice at 3 o'clock in the morning when my motion detector goes off, and the sheriff's deputies are walking the seawall and they're walking some of the neighborhood. They had a drone up patrolling the whole port of the islands on the streets looking for traffic and things like that. So they have done some things to help us out. Normally they have 2 officers at night stationed in Naples and 2 in Everglades City, and nothing in Port of the Islands. And I asked them why they couldn't station 2 in Naples, 1 in Port of the Islands, 1 in Everglades City. And she said, because they run all over and they go here, they're not in any one spot. I said, but didn't you just tell me that 2 of them are in Naples and 2 of them are in Everglades City? You didn't say 2 in Naples, 1 in the port, 1 in Everglades City. And I said, so why can't we have 1 of them when they're not running all around? They'll be spending their time here by the port. And that's going to take some work to try to get that mentality through there. I think Everglades City is very connected. They have a great mayor who's grown up in this area, and his whole family have for years. He's very connected. I think that has something to do with it. But the Port of the Island needs more voice, and the only way we're going to get that is to do it in the right channels. If you do call up and complain, Port of the Island kind of has a bad name among some of the politicians and things that were just a bunch of complainers. So we have to do it in the right way. But I think we can, done the right way, we can get some help through the Sheriff's Department too.
And I have 2 other CDD clients where we, on a scheduled basis, hire off-duty but armed and uniformed sheriff deputies, and the rate is $80 an hour with a 4-hour minimum. Certainly helps improve your presence within the sheriff's department, and I'm doing that at both Pelican Bay and also Heritage Greens in North Naples. Those are traffic driven, and they have concerns about speeding and people blowing through 4-way stop signs, but I mean they're willing to do whatever you want them to do. you have to enter into a contractual basis with the sheriff's department, but I think, for a half a shift, 4 hours, $320, there's some value there just because of the presence that it presents.
That was one of the things that came forward as security guards. I got a couple phone calls and things about trying some different methods, and that's something they talked about to do that. So remember last year we had some people went into a couple garages. They went into a couple lanais and took things off the lanai and that kind of thing. It's not only along the boats. So they did spread out. If you have ideas, get a hold of one of us, call me.
If you want to start a pilot project and have me explore with my contact at the sheriff's department some scheduled delegated patrols for that type of activity, I'm already doing it 2 other places. You want to try it for 3 months in season?
When we've had these people coming in and stealing, is there any particular days of the week that are more prone to that than others?
I don't believe so, not from what Mr. Barrett has shared in the past, or Mr. Truckee. But if that's your either consensus, or you want to have me engage some detailed shifts, say over the course of the next 90 days, I'm happy to do it.
I don't know that I totally agree with the way the sheriff's department walks guys down the seawall at 3 o'clock in the morning. I think that's more of a PR thing than is actually catching the people that are working the community at that time of night. They drive the cars. I talked to a couple of people. They've seen their squad cars go through the neighborhood. But I think that there's way better ways to come up with actually catching them, not just.
Plus, when you got 3 police officers following each other around, wouldn't it make more sense that each one of them would go in a different direction?
I was able to walk up behind the 2 officers walking down the seawall to about 15 yards, and I didn't know they were sheriff's officers the first time because it's dark. I was able to come up behind them and yell at them, "Hey!" And they turned around and they had no idea I was even behind them. So they're walking down, talking along the seawall. It's great PR. We're not going to catch the thieves. The thieves are going to be. I saw them coming a long way away. They see them coming halfway across our community with their bright lights and walking along. So I think there's better ways to do it. I don't know. We're open to ideas. The people here want something done. All right. So you can say, well, in our community we don't have this, or we don't want this, or we don't want gates, or whatever. All right. If you don't want gates, come up with another idea. The people here want something done. We're getting letters they're doing, signing petitions and things that they want something done. We have to do something. We have to do something about it. So
motion on the table.
What's up, Frank?
Should we just move into community comments?
Hang on, we got maybe one.
No, Frank, come back.
Mr. Barrett made a motion that we engage the sheriff for off-duty patrols over the course of.
No. His original.
No, my original
Was
motion
$100,000? Yeah, and I suggested that we modify that to have me be able to solicit the 4 firms that I.
So you want to change your motion?
Yes, we need a second. Then.
I second it.
Okay, Annalisa seconds it.
Discussion on the motion, please. I personally don't think we jump ahead and actually start spending money on gates until we decide that that's what we're going to do.
That's a motion.
Budget. It's budget. We're not spending anything.
Well, up to $100,000, right?
Yeah, we're trying to find out how much it would cost.
Yeah, there's no
encumbered.
spending anything yet.
Okay, if we're not spending anything, I misunderstood that.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Frank,
What's
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I have something.
Get it.
I saw on next door that there's some interest in beautifying Newport. I don't know if she came to the meeting, but.
She did. She did, she left.
Oh.
but we've already got that taken care of, some of it. Soto's was, the last meeting was instructed to move forward on the entry.
I think.
And you got electricity in there now, right?
Not yet. I didn't see any.
LCEC will be here soon to put the meter in that, to run the power and charge up that meter base that's, we talked about, Steve.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah, so
$30
let's
fee.
get,
We're
yeah,
committed
hopefully
and
we
they're
can get
gonna
going
do
on
it.
the lighting over there right away.
Right. And then also over in that same area, there's a spool of cable that's been there for about 3 years with the truck tire leaning up against it. We ought to work and
Get rid of that.
get rid of that, yep.
No, this was a,
Some hauling firm or something in here and just.
I'll bet you Mitch would help us with that.
He might.
Yeah, I'll ask Mr. Spransky to coordinate that with Mitch. What's the location on Newport?
It's right behind the bushes as you pull in on the right side, right across from the guard shack. You can't miss it.
Okay.
she was talking about cleaning up the other areas there.
Yeah, we talked.
125 report?
You know where that meter base is, right?
Yes.
Okay, they're gonna make that live.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know, in the next couple weeks, I would think.
So, yeah, she was talking about getting some volunteers to clean up and maybe.
Right, I told her that we were the Soto contractor to take care of that, so she's on board.
Okay, but I mean, if they want to get volunteers to like clean
Yeah.
the walls, paint them like we did on our side,
Right.
we need to support that.
Yes.
Okay, all right, you're on it.
Should we move on to community comments?
What final comments?
Yes.
Fine, man.
I'd like to applaud the board for its actions today on moving a couple items forward and
The meeting's froze up again.
the ERCs, the Quincy case, and with the marina. And you wanted to have some of these things done, I think the marina in February, if I caught that correctly.
I don't expect that the marina issue will be in February.
Okay, you're still gonna wait for that input from.
Yeah, we need to have him engaged to do a study. I don't have any reason to believe it would be done and complete in February.
Okay, is there a time constraint that you're up against?
The time constraint would tie to the adoption of the final budget. If we're going to change the methodology to address the 4 units per acre or to consider commercial boat slips at a higher rate, I need to know that before we adopt the final budget in July or August, which was why we were trying to get it engaged in the winter.
Okay, but did I not hear that you had some kind of time constraint that you were up against, and if you're going to file something against the 2 different entities that were under discussion?
We're under time restriction.
On parcel 13, there's a 1-year time from March, so
So that one, you to expedite?
That one that's not related to the determination. That is just a board. The board has to give direction as to what they want to do. That's
Okay,
we don't need
it is
to.
under a time constraint.
It's under a time constraint,
And there is an urgency to it.
There is an urgency to it.
Okay, I wanted that on the record. Thank you.
Mr. Lee, did you have a comment? No. Ma'am?
I'm Lisa Sager. I live at 166 Sunset Cave. I just want to say I think you guys are doing a great job. I understand, and I think we all should understand why at times they seem like they're frustrated, because I would be frustrated myself if I was sitting there trying to do the best for the community and yet all they get is flack. All I can say is I think we're going to have a lot of people trying to get on the board if there's that much disparity. Everything I see on Nextdoor is so negative. If there's that much negativity, then I hope that when board members are coming off, that we have a bunch of new board members that are willing to sit on this board, because these guys give their time tirelessly. And it's so frustrating to me, and I'm not gonna get on board because I don't have the time that maybe they have or that they are making time for. I can't do that at this time. But I just think we need to be a community instead of always being at each other's throats and whatever. Some people want a clubhouse, some people don't. Doesn't mean that we still can't be nice to each other. And I'm so frustrated, it's not even funny, but I want to thank you guys for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Steve?
Steve Gunther, Orchid Cove. I also want to share my thanks for you guys, because I know it's a tough job. I've got a few comments on 3 or 4 topics. I'll start with the street lights. I've asked multiple times to partner with somebody, a representative in CID who's responsible for the LCEC bill, to go to LCEC and try to get a rate review, because I see the biggest issue there is that they are completely overcharging and their bills are not consistent. And I think with a face-to-face rate review, we could resolve the majority of that issue, but still have not. For whatever reason, I haven't had anybody that would step up and help me with that.
Let me comment on that one right away.
Sure.
All right, I know I've talked to you about it.
Yeah.
I've talked to the LCEC people. I was on the phone again with them yesterday or the day before. Got a copy. Their rate sheet is actually online, and it goes through every option of every pole that you can have, including the light bulbs in there. And the prices are all there. It's a price sheet. I talked to the people. They said the price sheet's the price sheet. That's the way it is. Right? If you want to go there and you want to call Wink News, or you want to do whatever you want to do to stir that up and try to negotiate something that they don't do, you can. But I'm not going there with you. Okay? That's what I made it very clear, that I'm not. You can do that on your own. But the price sheets are the price sheets. They're there. When you ask them what a decorative pole costs, how much is it, how long do you pay the bill, how much is the light fixture that sits on top of it versus a cement pole that the rest of the neighborhoods have, it's there. If you have a 20-foot or 25-foot, if you have a LED on it or a high-pressure sodium or whatever it is, and how many watts it is makes a difference. The price sheet is there. You can go right down and say, okay, 20-foot pole, high-pressure sodium, 150 watts. There's your price. What energy? There's an energy price on all those bulbs, right? A high-pressure sodium is very energy efficient. It's almost as good as an LED. All right, so then they have a $3 a month or whatever charge. You can add that up and say that's what that light pole costs. When I call there and talk to their people twice now, 2 different people, I get the same thing. The price sheet's the price sheet, here it is. Okay, so when we look at your poles, that's what we're talking about. Your poles cost either $54 or $64 a month for your poles because they're decorative poles.
I know. I mean, the total bill is 54, but it's broken down. If you actually look at your bill and look at each line item, and first of all, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing. I got the same story from them.
Correct.
Right?
Well, in fact, the rates are set by the Florida Public Service Commission.
No, they're not.
Their rates and their fees are set and tied on the tariff schedule by the Public Service Commission.
For electricity, I agree. For poles, I do not believe that's the case.
So anyway,
Okay.
when you look at these poles, you can take, I did the total cost, okay? Your decorative pole costs X amount of dollars. The fixture that sits on top of it costs X amount of dollars, and the energy charge is another some bucks that go on it, and it creates the total dollar amount, all right?
And you can take this offline, I can go through it on your bill.
I'm just saying, you can look at it, it's there, and I'm not gonna go sit down and tell them that you have to change it for us when this is their price sheet. It's been there, it's everywhere. So if you wanna do that, Steve, by all means, please go. If you get it, great. But don't sit there and say that nobody will get back to you, because I did get back to you, and I told you that I'm that guy and I'm not going with you. Maybe somebody else here wants to go with you and try to tell them that if they don't give us a special deal, you're gonna get a hold of Wink News or something, whatever. I get it, I'm not trying to tell you that, but don't come up here and say that you haven't been able to get anywhere with it, because
I
it's
said what I said, and I'm sorry if I offended you, I'm not trying to offend you. I'm just saying no one will partner with you. When I tried to talk to them about your bill, they said, you are not authorized on that bill. We cannot talk to you about that bill. That's why I need somebody else to go with me. Okay?
You get the meeting.
Okay, great. I will try to set up a meeting with them and see what we can do. Might be worthwhile.
Yeah, if you'll introduce yourself to Mr. Scarasio, if we're able to have a Zoom or teleconference
You guys just need
or something
to
like
tell
that.
me who to work with.
Mr. Scarasio will be your first point of contact.
Okay, great. Let me deal with you after the meeting. Okay, that's that. The second thing on the restoration project, just a little more details. I did a lot of research on this a couple of years ago, before you guys went to thing. The berms were taken out in 2013 out of their plan when they were also asking for more money. They were taken out of both here and out of their plan, both here and in the 6L Farm area. And then 6L Farm brought their lawyers in, and then they decided to do it. So just a little history on that, just to comment on that. The last thing is we get sitting here, and I have not gone through your public financials. I will do that and try to have a better answer for you. But we get really, I'll just say, I get really mixed signals. I have a chairman tell me that you guys aren't collecting enough money and you have to raise rates. I hear that we were $500,000 under budget last year. And then we're talking about new expenditures. We're going to spend $100,000 on this, a new lawsuit, things like that. I understand it's hard, but you guys have to have a budget, which I think your management company does manage. Just a suggestion I think would be helpful for all of us to understand is that clearly the water plant costs a certain amount to operate. There's a fixed amount of fee and stuff like that. It'd be great to see a financial statement that basically, I guess it's in the financial statements, we can drive it out. But we have a CIP plan for a bunch of improvements. Those improvements need to be done, right? These are things where the infrastructure is deteriorated, things like that. Some of them at the water plant, I don't know where you guys are reading. I haven't read it on Nextdoor that they don't think you're taking care of the water plant. Maybe years ago, but not in the last few months. I think you guys have done an outstanding job, in my opinion, of maintaining the water plant, things like that. The harder thing is trying to wait for this money from FEMA and the infrastructure issues on the piping. You're addressing the bridge. There's been no discussion of some of the other items in the CIP plan. It'd be really helpful to have a prioritized list of infrastructure improvements, both to the water plant, separately from the water pipes and things like that, facilities. There's also been talk of, paving roads and stuff like that. It's a lot, but it'd be really nice to have a prioritized list and say, these are our priorities as this board. We're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do that, right? There's things in the CIP that, like putting looping in the Orchid Cove water lines, would really help us because we get, I've never heard it talked about. I just looked at the CIP and I was surprised to see it in there. It would be really helpful to say, these are our priorities. I've heard in the past, I've been coming to these meetings for 2-3 years now. I come to pretty much every one or I'm online. We talk about all the improvements you guys are going to do and stuff like that. And again, I appreciate you guys and I know how hard it is, and I'm not one of the ones who, I tell people that you guys work hard. But it would be really helpful to have that plan so we can prioritize it. And that's a working plan. When something new comes up, you say, we're going to insert it here. It's in the prioritization. Now it would give us, then you'd have a better picture of what type of capital money you have, really what it's going to cost to operate this. But it's just a suggestion.
There is a CIP plan there. It has a 1 to 5 year, 5 to 10 year.
It was updated, I believe, the first year that we were here, and will be updated for some of the new projects, specifically the bridge crossing and other things that were not contemplated at that time.
Well, is it possible to take that list and say
It's on the website.
A, B, or C?
But
like an A, a B, or a C.
It doesn't even
next to it?
say half the stuff in there you never talked about. I don't even know if it's on it. You'll ever do it, right? I'm saying I'd like to see it prioritized for the next few years. This is what these are the key projects that we think are the most important. These are where we're gonna put money, and this is what it's gonna cost.
Just put it.
And that way you can balance that against what you guys have.
I think we've been pretty clear when it came to the new disc filters and the new wall water main and the new elevated well field heads, and now the culvert crossing. There are some things on there like rehabbing the lift stations that were not there. There were 2 of them that we did in the 4th quarter of last year.
You guys are doing a great job.
Yeah.
I'm not
I just
saying,
think that
I'm just
information is there.
making a suggestion. So this would be in addition to what you're doing. I'm not unhappy with what you guys are doing. It's just looking out into the future. What are the priorities? It's not clear. And then when we talk about things like spending money on this or that, then you can kind of say, oh, does that really fall in the budget? Do we have the money to do that? I don't know. I'm just saying, what's a priority? Is the water line, I understand the water line from the plant into the communities, that's the same water line construction material that's going out to the well fields, right? We don't think it's leaking, we don't know, but at some point that needs to be replaced. Where does that fall on the list of priorities? There's no priority really that's been specified from this board saying, this is our priorities, these are the things that we want to see. These are our priorities and the order of things that we're going to repair and the infrastructure.
Yeah,
That's all I'm asking for.
I don't know that I agree.
Right.
Mr. Lee?
Okay, that's fine, you don't have to, but it's just my opinion. Thank you.
Nice job.
Frankly, 275 Case Drive, Dale Woodhouse, Ron Westerman and I are the ones that instigated the petition. And it has 171 people. I want to thank you for your diligent consideration of that. I want to point something out though. I think from my perspective, you guys are it's unfair to you because you say, I think we ought to have security. That's what we asked for. We specifically said, we're not recommending gates. We're not recommending unicorns. We're not recommending airplanes or guards. We said, we want professionals to look at our system with their knowledge of the law and the other things and make recommendations on what they feel would be a good solution. I think the suggestion made by our manager today and the actions you took exceed our request. And I thank you for that because we've tried sitting around as a group discussing whether we need, the French Foreign Legion or whatever it is we need out here, and we're just not agreeing. And we always come up with different facts, and sometimes they're actual, sometimes they're not. So thank you for that very much. That's the way I think the process is supposed to work. People come together, they express their opinion, you diligently reviewed it, and I just wanted to thank you. I think that's great. Also, the code of conduct thing is helpful, and I just wanted to say that I sense a positive turn in this community. I see it. People are starting to come together. They're starting to talk together. And I want to say thank you. That's real good. And I have been somewhat vocal at times because I'm not a lawyer, discussing work by our law firm. And I wanted to compliment our attorney today. Sir, I thought your input was invaluable. And your suggestions on amending the conduct, I'm just embarrassed we didn't have those in there. They're very appropriate. So thank you, sir. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Any others? Steve, will you be back in town in the next 2 weeks? Okay. I have completed the field work for the 2025 audit, and you and I need to sign what is called the rep letter, and I'll need a letter from General Counsel in order to complete that to produce the finished copy. Will you just shoot me a text or email, let me know when you'll be back in town to review that letter?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other business to come before the board, your next meeting is February the 20th, and with that, you can entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion. Second. All in favor?
All right. Thank you all.